The date is November 24th, 2025, and the time is 6:30. I hereby call to order the meeting of the Community Redevelopment Agency Board of the City of Groveland. Sierra? Let's do the pledge first. Ms. Gaines, Vice Mayor, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sierra, could you please take the roll?
Yes, sir. Chair Keith Keogh.
Here.
Vice Chair Barbara Gaines.
Here.
Board Member Amy Jo Carroll.
Here.
Board Member Michael J. Cox, absent. Board Member Stephen Shalkowski.
Here.
Board Member Matthew Bauman.
Here.
Board Member Daniel Corsi.
Here.
Commissioner Anthony Sabatini, absent. Community Development Director Timothy Maslow.
Here.
CRA Coordinator John Jones.
Here.
City Attorney Anita Garasti Carver. Sergeant at Arms Lieutenant Christine Butu. And Recording Secretary Sierra Bender here.
Thank you, and we have a quorum. We'll go on to the consent agenda. Sarah, will you please read the consent agenda?
Yes, sir. Consent agenda, consideration of approval, October 27, 2025, CRA Governing Board meeting minutes.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? Is there any public comment? Okay, Sarah, will you please take the roll?
Sir, Vice Chair Gaines, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Carroll?
Aye.
Board Member Corsi?
Aye.
Board Member Shalkowski?
Aye.
Board Member Bauman?
Aye.
And Chair Keogh.
Aye. Moving on, I think we have a wish.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just had a quick ask for consensus. I had talked with Tim earlier in the day. If we could move number 4, Community Redevelopment Agency 101 overview presentation to the start, just for myself and also our new member, so we could get some of the one-on-one info before we jump into some things that we have to take action on.
So that would be before old business, is what you're asking?
If we could.
Okay. Thank you. We're asked for consent to move that. Any issues? Matthew, no? Barbara?
I have any issue.
Good. We have consent, so let's move that, Sierra, to the next item of business. With that said, let's Community Redevelopment Agency 101 overview presentation, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor Keogh, ladies and gentlemen of the Groveland CRA Governing Board. My name's John Jones with GAI Consulting at 601 South Street in Orlando, Florida. The CRA 101 booklet that you have in your packet is kind of an oversight of how CRAs operate, and also has a brief summary of the Groveland CRA. The fast facts, I think, is one of the pages there. It outlines, it outlines the who, what, where, and when of how the Groveland CRA was established, how long the Groveland CRA is active, what the Groveland CRA's revenues are, and what the history of the Groveland CRA is. Also in the booklet, there's a CRA 101 course that was provided by the Florida Redevelopment Association that outlines how the Groveland Special District operates. And so it talks about tax increment funding and how tax increment funding is generated. It also provides information about the legal operations of CRAs. And then the final item the final 2 items in the handbook include the Florida statutes that address CRA plans and CRA operations, and then also the CRA plan itself for the City of Groveland is included in that information booklet. So the information booklet, the CRA 101 booklet, is meant as a handout and a takeaway for you so that you can refer back to it if you have questions about how CRAs operate, how the tax increment fund operates, and what's the history behind the Groveland CRA. I hope that addresses your questions, but I'm here to answer any additional questions during this meeting and afterwards.
Yeah, I thought it was more of a presentation, so yeah, I'll read over it. And
Yeah,
sounds good.
yeah.
Dan, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Matthew?
No questions.
Amy Jo?
No.
Ms. Barbara? I have just a few.
Yes, sir.
And I'll save most of them because I think it would be better to have a side meeting and then come back. But I guess the question is, when will this be revised? Because it seems to be very much outdated. There's a lot of things in there that either already have been done or have been dismissed from the program. And I'm wondering when is that on the books to do?
So CRA plans can be updated at the direction of the CRA Governing Board. So when the CRA Governing Board says they want to update the CRA plan can be updated or amended. So the degree of the update can be something that y'all determine, whether you want to update the entire plan, including the existing conditions, or if you just want to update the budget or the work plan and identify new projects.
I think that's good information, and Tim, that might be something that we need to get with each individual member and find out how they see it, but
I agree.
but I would really like to see a direction of, you have 25, I think, different things with a lot of things underneath, but there's no sequence of events, there's no prioritization unless you go to the workbook on the dollars that have been theoretically allocated, but then we didn't allocate them. So some way to track where we're supposed to be when and what we're going to do when, like when are we going to do stormwater, when are we, rather than just an overview. And then as I asked Mr. Jones, could we group things by category? Because we have stormwater in 4 or 5 different areas. We have all kinds of, but they repeat, where if you just had things like infrastructure and then affordable housing is in a lot of different places and things, so we could kind of focus on those things. That would be my input to bring to the table, but I think everybody else should chime in.
Question. What is the process to open or to update the plan? Sorry, I thought he was pointing to me.
It's okay. I was just curious, maybe we should have a workshop where we all sit together, we go through everything, we decide what we want, what we don't want, what order we want them in. I think that would be probably very helpful for staff to see how we want to prioritize, how we want to see things done.
I think that'd be a good way to do it. That way we could all talk about it.
Yeah, and then I think we should have a say in the prioritization, because we have stormwater in there under almost every single thing, but it's never been done. But we have done other things, and so where does that money go? Because we have limited resources. I think this group should be able to say, let's look at this first, second, or third, right?
The intent of the CRA plan is to provide a range of menu items. I'm going to use the menu analogy here. So it provides a list of all the potential items that you could order and gives you an estimated cost of what those are, and also provided a relative timeline as to the sequencing of some of those events and some of those menu items based on the ability of the CRA to pay for them. What the menu demonstrates is that there's a lot more projects identified than what the CRA has revenue for. So in order for the CRA to spend TIF revenue, the projects first have to be identified in the CRA plan. And so you cast a wide net in the CRA plan and include more projects than you can hope to pay for. But the CRA has the authority each year when they set out their work program to identify what those priorities are and which items from the menu they want to address. So it's designed to give you the flexibility to pick your work items each year and your priorities each year, but it also lists the potential priorities so that you're in compliance with Florida statutes.
Thank you for that, and if I could just build on your menu analysis in the recipe.
Yes, sir.
You need to have the stock before you make the sauce, and so we probably need stormwater before we do streetscapes. You know, that kind of thing is, I think, in sequence, we need to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think, just to kind of echo some of your statements, I think this pairs well with what Board Member Corsi brought up before, and having the CRA look at potentially amending our boundary for the CRA boundary. We've talked about how right now it currently bifurcates the south side of the Taylorville plat, so we've talked about incorporating that. That's worthy of evaluation. Also, this pairs well with the comprehensive plan evaluation and appraisal report that we're currently working on. So one of our key objectives this year is alignment, making sure that our comp plan, our CRA plan, everything aligns with the strategic plan. So that takes effort, and so I expect to work on we've had some soft conversations, John and I, but I expect working on a task order for him to present in an upcoming meeting, and we're happy to have individual meetings with you all if time permits, happy to have a workshop, just kind of roll up our sleeves, get a better idea of what is in the CRA plan right now and how that could kind of just be a little refocused, if you will, to better align with the strategic plan, but then also talk to sequencing of, it's okay to have the menu, but appetizer to entree to dessert, I think that sequencing would be helpful for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. Barbara?
I like the idea of a workshop where we can all talk. I don't like 15-minute or 30-minute workshops. I think the workshop that we have should be of substance. I think that none of us is as smart as all of us. While it is good to have individual meetings, if we can put it all out there and then perhaps follow up with individual workshops. But I would like to suggest that we do have a workshop. Oh, may I get a consensus for a workshop?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to, it's really loud. I appreciate you bringing that up, Chair Keough, because one of these things that I did want to bring up today is that I feel like a lot of times things come into the agenda that aren't necessarily specified on how they align with the CRA plan, with the 4 points that are specified on there. And having a workshop where we can put everything through that filter, I think would be super helpful, if it's facilitated well. And that would be my caveat is, sometimes those workshops can be long, but not necessarily productive. So I think that would be a pretty awesome thing to have. Tim, I've talked to you before about doing some of these workshops, talking about adding things to backlogs and prioritizing the backlog, which is exactly what you were saying. So if we could structure it in the right way, where we can get through it efficiently and put it through that filter for the CRA plan, I'm definitely down.
And all facilitators are not equal. Just saying.
Matthew, are you okay?
Yes, I'm in favor of the workshop. I agree. It should be facilitated in a way that's most productive. Yeah, so just like, this is a big item. I think it should probably be the only item on the workshop and have some good strategies for how to dive into each item and maybe rate them.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we have that consensus to develop a workshop. And could you probably get back with us on what the dates available are for that?
We'll look
so
at
we
some
get it
meeting
on the-
dates for sure, and I understand with council doing workshops, I think the third Thursday of each month, perhaps for scheduling purposes, we could try to pair it with one of those days coming up so that you don't have multiple days, but we could look at some options and get back to you for sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you good? Okay, we have finished that part of the agenda, unless, John, you have anything else to say on your presentation?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, then we'll move on to old business. Agenda item 1, ordinance 2025-22, Community Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board Establishment Discussion. Mr. Maslow?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We continued this item at the last meeting. I think we've continued this item for a few times at this point. Mr. Jones is going to present the same slideshow so that we all have an understanding. I've had, I think, several individual conversations with most of you in terms of what the options are in front of you, but I don't want to say too much. I'm going to make sure that the right slideshow is up. I'm about to go see Rob in the back. Make sure we get that addressed, and then as soon as those slides are up, Mr. Jones will take it away and provide the slideshow, provide the presentation.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir.
I'm just waiting for the slideshow to queue up here. At our last meeting, we talked about establishing a CRA advisory board. The Florida statutes outline specifically how CRAs can be governed, and the governing board of CRAs can be composed two different ways. The City Council can appoint themselves as the governing board and add at-large members, and that's the model that you have here right now. They can also appoint a governing board that is comprised not of the City Council, but is comprised of members that are located or live within the CRA boundaries. What we've been asked for to discuss is setting up an advisory board that would be a potential, a second group underneath the governing board that would provide advisement, basically. We'll go through here. So let's look at the options. We have three options to look at. Come on, Seabiscuit. There we go. Option one is to keep the current CRA board composition. That would be the 5 council members that we have, 2 at-large members, and no advisory board. Option 2 would be to revise the CRA board composition to being city council members only, and that would be 5 council members, no at-large members, no advisory board. Or option 3, revise CRA board composition to city council members only with no at-large members and create an advisory board with 7 members consisting of 5 city council appointed members and 2 at-large members. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of each one of these options. So, option 1, keeping the current CRA board composition at 5 members and 2 at-large members with no advisory board. The pros, the current configuration works. It's effective. The at-large members provide additional representation of the CRA businesses and the property owners. And the final pro is there's no additional layer of administration created if you have an advisory board. The cons, the no advisory board members may provide additional technical experience. So an advisory board could be comprised of technical experts in economic development, real estate, landscape architecture that could provide technical insight to the CRA governing board, very similar to how the planning and zoning board works. That's option number 1. Option number 2, revise the CRA board composition to city council members only with no at-large members and no advisory board. The pros, this would not create another level of administration with an advisory board. The cons, no at-large members would be, would be represented to provide, would not be able to provide representation of the CRA businesses and property owners. That would be a con. And then no advisory board members would be available to provide potential technical expertise. So that's option 2, the pros and cons. Revise CRA board to city council only with no at-large and no advisory board. Option 3, revise the CRA board composition to city council members only with no at-large members, create an advisory board with 7 members consisting of 5 city council appointed members and 2 at-large members. The pros of option 3, the advisory board members would be available to provide potential technical expertise if an advisory board is created, and the advisory board may support and relieve meeting workload of the CRA governing board. The cons associated with this option are that you would have no at-large members on the CRA governing board to provide representation of the CRA business and property owners. And the other con is you would create an additional layer of administration by having a CRA advisory board and a CRA governing board. Florida statute requirements for our options. City Council is the governing board. You can have no fewer than 5 members, no more than 7 members. You currently have 7 members, your 5 council members, and your 2 at-large members. It's a separate legal entity from the city. It may include members of your taxing authorities and at-large members, and the City Council selects the chair and the vice chair. So that's the option that you have right now. An appointed governing board, it's appointed by the City Council, no fewer than 5 members, no more than 9 members. It may include members of the taxing authority, and the City Council here would also select a chair and the vice chair. The big difference between these 2 options are the appointed governing board has the authority to approve contracts and approve the CRA's annual budget that then goes to the City Council for ultimate approval. So if you appoint a governing board, if you have a governing board for the CRA that is appointed members and not the City Council, they would have the power of the CRA's purse strings. The City Council would still retain the ultimate authority to approve their annual budget, but the CRA appointed board could enter into contracts and would create their annual budget for submittal and approval to the City Council. So there's our 3 options. Option 1, Option 2, Option 3. Option 1 and 2 have no advisory board. Option 3 revises the CRA board composition of council members only with no at-large members and creates an advisory board. So at this time, it is the pleasure of the CRA governing board for your discussion.
Thank you. So let's go ahead, and I don't think we need a motion to discuss. We can just discuss, right? So we can go ahead. Matthew, you weren't here last time, so and we weren't able to hear from you, so you want to lead it off?
I'm happy to start, so long as I can come back and make any other comments later. When we had originally started this whole process, it was my understanding that we were looking simply to add an advisory board to the CRA and not make changes to the governing board. And I'm not entirely sure why those 2 issues are linked together. As far as an advisory board, I am relatively neutral. I can see the pros and cons to it. There's additional administrative needs. As far as technical expertise, I do believe we have quite a lot of technical expertise, although it is always good to have additional community input, which I'm always happy to receive. I don't know why we don't have option 4 and that we keep the board as is and then add an advisory board, because that, I think, was the original discussion. So I don't know why that's not on the table, which I think it should be. I don't think we should make changes to the governing board. I'm open to adding an advisory board to the CRA governing board, depending on other comment and input from the board.
John, was there a reason why that wasn't on? Was there some legal reason or something that we need to be aware of why that wasn't on the options?
No, sir. That is an omission that it can be added as an option 4.
Okay, thank you. Amy Jo?
I'd be more inclined to go with the option 4 that just popped up here. My biggest concern is that we only have so many people that genuinely care about our downtown area and developing it, and if we make that committee, they can't talk to each other anymore. So I'm still kind of stuck, and if they're on that advisory board, the people who care about downtown the most can no longer talk about it. And I'm not sure that that's a good thing. It's almost like if we just picked out those people and consulted with them and talked to them ourselves, that we could get further without them being an official board.
Thank you. Dan?
I agree with Amy Jo. You know, I think going back to the original discussion was that this advisory board would be in addition to the current governing board, no change to the governing board, because that would save us time for instance, talking about, getting this board together so they can go over all the CRA plan changes, right? That they can go through, they can workshop that. They help save time for the governing board, for the council, and for staff. So I don't necessarily think that would be an additional administrative work in the sense of it will pay itself back in time. I'm definitely, I could go either way as well when it comes to either just keeping the governing board as is or adding an advisory board. I do agree there's not as many engaged members of the community that we would like to see out there. So it does limit them if we were to kind of pull all of them into that kind of situation where sunshine laws dictate whether or not they can converse or they can take action on the things they want to take action with. I would say, given that we don't have one of our new board members here, and also that the current advertised agenda item is discussion and not a vote for consideration, I would vote to table this again. And I know that kind of keeps pushing the buck, but a governing board changing how their board governs should be the whole board. And as much as I don't like to see that, and I believe that there's all sorts of benefits to any one of these options. So I am biased. I do believe I have a place here on this board. I believe I'm more than qualified to have an opinion and to vote in a way that is good for the community, with that downtown community. So obviously I'm biased there, but I would love to see any action taken at some point. I don't like to see this keep getting put off, but the whole sunshine laws and advertisement when it comes to what we're putting out to the community as far as what we're voting for, I think constantly labeling, and this is not specific to this is maybe a bigger discussion, labeling things as a discussion in the agenda might not bring the voices to the community, to the board, because they just think it's a discussion. So I don't think it should be a vote today for that reason, and because we're missing somebody, and it's somebody who's new to this board. So,
Can you hold that motion until we get all the way around? Okay.
Question for our city staff. If you could go back to the last slide that you went over about the difference between the two.
Yes, sir.
And then when you say appointed governing board, you're not talking about the advisory board, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make that clear because I want to make sure that the advisory board would very much be like planning and zoning and not entering into contracts or anything like that.
That is correct.
And then one of the things that two members have mentioned is the cannot talk to each other. And that's something that's come up at planning and zoning too. I know it's a larger area that we can pick from, but you are putting the folks that care the most about the development of Groveland on one board. How we have gotten through that is kind of how you all are doing it, which is scheduling workshops. And then you could really go into different planning and different ways to go over items. And it's actually created, I know it, planning and zoning, it's now like competitive to get onto planning and zoning. Like we have more, I have folks that that are in my district that are like, I'd love to be on it. And I'm like, fill out your application. And I'm sure, once we have an opening. So it creates a little bit of competition and folks wanting to be on. The more discussion that we have, the more that it's not just a once a month kind of thing or once every other month. And I know we've benefited a lot from that from planning and zoning. So for those two things, I wouldn't discount either 3 or 4. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Just a few questions, but first, can we do a 5? Can we have a 5, please? Sure. And just tell me if it's illegal, because I think
you forgot Barbara.
it's because what we have now is called a hybrid, because sometimes just the council is the board, and then we made a hybrid to do this, so it's something different than everywhere else. We would just help me with the discussion. We would meet for a presentation under this, because we would do we would do the meeting of the current board who got recommendations from the advisory board prior to the council meeting, like a half hour before or something like that was brought up. So then we would have to do the same presentation again so that the people that came to see what the council's doing a half hour later. Is that not correct? We'd be going through the presentation twice? Or could we just consent agenda it and then just move right on to the council meeting?
The latter. Yes, sir.
Okay.
If I was chairman, I would never forget the vice
See,
mayor.
I even said it, and you just kept.
I resign now.
No resigning. I forgot.
I'm sorry, Barbara.
He was just excited. He was just excited.
Do you want to finish?
No, go ahead, please. No.
He'll repeat it all again later.
I think at least twice I've heard the words additional layer of administration, or maybe it's in here twice. Can somebody tell me what that looks like? What is an additional layer of administration? What does that mean?
That means that there would be an additional board meeting to go through CRA action items before it goes to the CRA governing board.
Okay. To me, that seems kind of hard-pressed. Like,
Vice Mayor, members of the board, if I could add to that, some items don't only just require CRA governing board approval, some items require city council approval. So you might have some items that have to go to the CRA advisory board, then the governing board, and then the city council.
because the way that it is here, they look like filler words, you know, like, you know, like that. That is my reason for asking that. An advisory board, I look at the advisory board as they advise, we decide. And so also I want to say that just because the committee members can't talk to each other, those that really care, it's the same thing with us. We really care, but we can't talk to each other. So that doesn't, to me, that is not a stumbling block because they can't talk to each other, but they can talk to each other in workshops or sessions. So that wouldn't bother me at all. Now, right now, I would say that I would go with option 4. However, I don't know what the illustrious mayor may have that may be option 5. I may go for that one. But I think that option 4 is certainly something that should be considered. And what they do, again, like I said, they advise, we decide. So I go back to none of us is as smart as all of us. They may have different points of view because they're not so entrenched. They're coming at it from the outside. And my last question is, okay, so Councilman Michael J. Cox is not here. Does that stop us from voting? Because the next time we have a CRA meeting, I might be out. Then it's kicked on down the road. So I'd like to ask council, how many people do we need to vote?
The item is listed only as discussion, so there would not be a vote tonight. You could place it on the next agenda for a vote, but this is just noted as a discussion item.
Okay, so next time, what if one of us is not here? Can we still vote?
Yes.
Okay.
What he was saying, I think, obviously, y'all can have that policy discussion. From a legal perspective, you can vote as long as you have a quorum.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If I could say something, you know, I think that just because something's permissible doesn't mean it's beneficial. I think when it comes to the board making a decision on governance, that's a big deal. So that's why I say I think the whole board should be here. And I would support whatever that decision is that the whole board comes with. It's not because we have to, I think, but I believe that it's because we should. It should be the whole board that makes that decision.
Well, a majority of the board makes the decision, right, according to the law?
The whole board has a vote. That's what I mean.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay. Next question, if we have members on the advisory board and can those advisory board members be on the governing board?
No, sir.
No. So, okay. And then I would probably echo what was just said. We've been through things like strategic plan committees and things like that work very, very well under the sunshine. And as I remember and I recall, and we need to have it in the record because I could be having some Alzheimer's here, but I thought we said we would broaden the scope of what the advisory board would be to access technical people beyond just the CRA, but within the, do I remember the district, the utility district? So that gives us a broader, and that's much like the strategic planning committee did, and I think it worked out very well. I would hate to have, well, I'm not comfortable with getting all new people on an advisory board that haven't been part of the CRA, and then having them report up. There's no track record, there's no history with that, so I think there should be some kind of continuity, and that would need to be discussed. Next, I would ask, why was this put on as a discussion? The last meeting, it wasn't a discussion, but it was tabled, so why was this put on as a discussion?
At the last meeting, there were some unresolved questions, and there was also absentee members of the governing board at the last meeting. So that's why it was tabled and held as a discussion item.
It was tabled.
I think the idea, Mr. Chair, was to get some more feedback and direction from the board that might impact the actual ordinance, and then we would go back, rewrite the ordinance, bring it back for an official vote based on what you're trying to see.
Okay. Those would be my questions. I would be in favor. I just want to, so since it's a discussion, we can forward that discussion. There's no surprises here. I would continue to say we take the governing board as the council, because coming at a half hour before and voting on stuff and just going on to the next one and doing it again, it seems to me to be probably not an efficient use of things, and somebody could just, we could put stuff on the consent agenda and then just go on to the board anyway. At the end of the day, the council holds the purse strings. And could you tell me how, what items would be, because this might change my mind, what the governing board would act on that without approval of that would need no approval, budgetary or otherwise, from the council?
Certainly. Each year, the CRA has an adopted budget, and the city council approves that budget. The governing board would then be able to enter into any contracts that they wanted to that were identified or that were consistent with the CRA plan and that they had funds budgeted for. And the city council would have, if they were not the governing board, would have no recourse or authority to address those contracts.
That's very interesting. Thank you. Okay, that would be.
I got something
yes,
else.
ma'am.
Just a question. Would it be possible to make a possibly temporary advisory board to update the CRA plan? And then we could see how that functions?
Yes, yeah. Municipalities do that frequently, like a task force.
Like, like
for
their
special
strategic
projects.
plan, like our charter committee, like, and just see how it functions?
Would it be called a task force? Is that what you're saying? Or would it be a sunshine?
You could call it anything you wanted to call it.
Oh, wow.
It would be sunshine. Whatever you want to call it, it would be a sunshine.
You know, you can call it
Subject to
whatever you want, it's
sunshine.
sunshine.
Yes, yes.
Task force sounds cool.
It's a,
And you could do that on project-by-project basis, so as the CRA board saw the need
Yeah.
that you want them to dig into something in particular, you could do that as well, instead of having just this advisory board in existence all the time.
I like the idea of the task force.
Can we get a consensus to do that instead of the workshop for us to start making a committee to work on that?
instead of the workshop?
Yeah, because they can do it instead of us.
I would still do a workshop to see what our priorities are and lay out what our list of, between
Maybe not
stormwater.
instead of, maybe in addition to? Okay,
Maybe with their input.
yeah. Okay. I would like to ask for a consensus to make an advisory committee specifically to help update the CRA plan.
Dan?
Sorry, I thought, so what you're saying is that they would work the priority list? Like they would create the priority list?
Yeah, they'd work on the priority list
'Cause
and
I just
stuff.
thought
It
I
would
heard
still come to
Steven
us
say
like the
that.
charter review committee where they would go through everything and then they bring us what they think and we'd still approve it or whatever. But just to let them work it through.
And kind of like a test run for.
Yeah, just to see how it functions.
Yeah.
I like the idea of having a task force, whatever you want to call it, for specific things. But I think the governing board should be the one to set the initial priorities and then use those initial priorities and you work that backlog and you start picking those and giving them to the advisory board, to the task force. I think that is, I think it's a great idea to have one. I think it gives an opportunity for these people to get their feet wet on these kind of issues. Without it, if this, whatever direction this ends up taking, now you have a group of people who have developed some experience in that and kind of understand that procedure.
It kind of solves a couple problems all at once.
But I would think, I would agree to the consensus as long as it was something that we were setting those priorities and giving them one piecemeal.
What to look at. Okay.
We're agreeing to the task force.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So would that mean we weren't, could you go back to the options? Would that mean we're not changing then the governing board?
Yeah, we're not really doing anything else with that tonight. That's kind of a separate.
No, I mean,
Because this is a permanent change. We're just talking about making a temporary committee.
so if we were to make one of these changes at the next meeting, next month, and we were to go with one of these, and let's say we went with like 3 or 4 that have an advisory board, would that be the same as the task force?
We could certainly pull from the task force to make the advisory board.
Another question.
Because they would technically be two different groups, but we could pull from the, to make.
I think there's a lot to be discussed on that from the governing board on how we're going to pick.
Right.
Is it an appointment, is it and all those, so those things could be worked through. The way I understood what you were saying, maybe I'm a little off, is that we have a document to get cleaned up, right?
Yeah.
And we could have a task force clean up that document. Now, in there are the different things, and we would then it would come back to us, and we would assign the
That's when we
priorities,
would have
almost
the workshop.
Gantt chart it, right? And
So they create the menu, we select the.
yeah, the courses, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's where we go with it. Kind of like just like the charter review committee did. They bring us back here, this is what we think, and then we can all talk about it, go
Yeah,
through it and
exactly.
prioritize it.
And would they basically get what we have discussed at the workshop that we're going to do? And then they would take that, because I'm guessing a task force, if we're going to put it together, it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks before it meets for its first time, correct?
It depends on if it's new members. Just food for thought, throwing out an idea. You do have an existing strategic planning committee. Several of those members do own businesses in the downtown. They've been looking long and hard at several plans of the city. They're about to wrap up their 3-year review of the strategic plan, making recommendations in a presentation at your city council meeting on December 15th. Just an idea, if you're trying to have a group that is already dedicated to the city, already have performed on a temporary basis a couple times before, and also has downtown representatives.
I think it's a good idea as one place to pull, but we can widen the net. We have other people from the Fire Assessment Committee and all kinds of places that bring in different kinds of technical skill that we can take a look at. I think the key is how are we going to pick them? And that should probably be the next point on the agenda of how we're going to go about whether it's a nomination or whether it's somebody just picking them. But right now, I'm not sure that we have a consensus on the task force. I got a yes.
I'm for it. I'm just being on being on the Charter Review Committee. It took like 8 to 10 weeks before we actually sat down for our first meeting, before it was actually ready for our first thing. And I think that's because you all were appointing folks to it, and it took some time to get names and then pick dates and for staff to get it. So I'm in favor of the consensus. I would just say it's probably going to take longer than we're initially thinking.
Nothing happens fast in government, Stephen.
I kind of saw it as a trial. I kind of saw it as a trial run for the advisory board, and it's probably going to be the same lead time either way because you're going to have to pick members either way. So, but that gives you the option of if it doesn't work out, don't appoint another task, as opposed to dissolving a board. So, I'm in favor of the task force to see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I'm in favor.
Okay, we have consensus on that. So could I ask a question? John, how do you fit into this? I mean, I'm serious. We saw a certain amount of hours, we saw all this stuff.
Yes, sir. I would be working with Mr. Maslow to help organize the task force and facilitate the meetings during the update of the plan. And also the initial briefing workshops with the CRA governing board so that we could identify what your priorities are and so we could charge the task force with updating the plan to realize those priorities.
Very, very nicely done.
That's beautiful.
Boy, that was very well done. Thank you.
It's a good thing we pay him.
Almost like you do this for a living.
Yeah, like you've done it before. Would you have any examples of other areas and how they picked such a task force?
Wow. Well, you have good resources right now that Tim has alluded to. You also have your fire assessment group, your planning and zoning board. So it's the folks that care. They usually identify themselves, but they may require some notification and prompting from y'all.
Well, I'll just go back and remind Mr. Maslow, none of the people that were on the strategic planning committee were on anything before that, right? They came together and they were picked for specific reasons, and they were picked by the city manager to be on there because of the skill set. So somehow I hope that we can hybrid, as you have, hybrid, and make sure we get the right people and run it by him. Okay. Okay, have we beat that horse to death now?
I think so.
Can we have a motion to table?
Motion to table, yes.
I'll second.
We have a motion to table and a second. Any discussion? No, seeing no discussion, yes.
I have one item. So I heard, so at the next meeting, we're going to come up and there's going to be a vote on option 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is that what we're basically saying by tabling the discussion? Because I don't want it to get to that next meeting and then it's discussion
Still be a
again.
discussion.
And then everyone's like, oh. And then also, I didn't hear anyone say they were supportive of option 1 or option 2. So should we even keep those on this list, or should we just have at the next meeting a vote on 4, or how do you all want to? I just don't want to keep, this is my first meeting, so maybe it hasn't come up a ton of times, but I'm wondering if we can narrow this for the staff too and say, hey, we're only looking at option 3 or 4 or 2 and 4, and let's bring it up for a vote at the next meeting.
I think that's probably a really good, but we have to put it in the minutes that we're doing that. In the agenda that we're doing that. So I think that's very, very valid. How would we word that?
I think he means the motion.
Or a consensus?
I think the only one that nobody's considered really is option 2.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
I mean, option 1 is no changes,
Yeah.
so that's
I
always
would
got
ask
to kind
the
of.
motion maker to amend, right? And then,
Well, I think if you want to take a vote on an ordinance at the next meeting, then it would be helpful for you to narrow down which ones you're considering, so we have drafted ordinances for each of them, so that you can see what it's going to look like. Otherwise, it needs to be another discussion item to give us direction, because I would think you'd want to see the final language you're voting on.
so we can vote on that, but we can't vote on the, we
You can
can,
give us consensus of which of the options you want us to bring back ordinances for.
Okay.
And then you can take a vote at the next meeting on one of the variety of ordinances we provide you. So if you want us to write ordinances, I mean, we have one written for 2 of the options.
Correct.
So if you tell us we want to maybe consider these 3, then whatever we don't already have drafted, we'll draft something. And then you'll have the actual ordinances in front of you to take action on.
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
For my part, I would be interested in either option 1, which would not require an ordinance, or option 4.
I agree with that.
I would be in favor of 1, 4, or 3.
No 5.
I didn't understand what 5 was.
I think you threw 5 out the window already. Didn't we throw 5? You already threw 5 out the window,
Unless
didn't
you want to re-explain what 5 was, because 5 just sounded like 3.
5 was advisory board and the council as the governing board, to avoid the second meeting. The meeting would take place at the first 15 minutes of the,
But wouldn't that be option 3 then?
Yeah.
no, at large. CRA board composition. Yes, that would be, yes, thank you.
So I think we have consensus
Advisory
then.
board of 7, no. Created advisory
We can
board.
eliminate option
No, created advisory board with 7 members consisting of 5 council members appointed to 2 and 2 at-large members. That's this.
No, that's an advisory board where we would put 5, each of us would appoint 1 member plus the 2 at-large as the advisory board, and then the council, the 5 council members would meet as the governing board. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so that is number 5.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't get,
3 and 5 are the same.
yeah.
okay. Then yes, thank you for clarifying that. I was looking at 7 members there.
We're doing great.
Okay. So we have consensus on 1 and 3. 2 is gone. Can we have consensus on dropping, let's just do it that way, dropping 2
And adding 4.
and adding 4?
So there's still 3
You guys
options.
both said 1 and 4, right?
Yeah, with a 1 and 4.
Can you go by, take a consensus, like option 1, and get everybody's yes, no, and then go to option 2 so we can keep track better, please?
Okay.
Okay, consensus on option 1. Dan?
Yes, that should be on there.
No.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so we have 1 as a go. Option 2. Matthew?
No?
No.
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 And no. So option 2 is out. Option 3. Dan?
No.
Yes.
No?
No.
Yes. So option 3 is out. Option 4.
Yes?
What was option 4? I don't see it here.
Option 4 is the advisory board, keep the board we have.
Yes.
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 Okay, so there you have it.
Thank you, that was easy. So we'll make sure we have in the packet ordinances for 1 and 4 if they're required.
1 doesn't really need anything, right?
Correct.
All right.
Yes. So we
So
just
hooray,
need
you only have
option
to write 1 ordinance.
4. Thank you.
Nick?
I believe 4 is the ordinance that we have, that
in the
we did
packet.
bring up to the last meeting. So that's, we're making progress, slowly but surely. And it's good to
Tim's like,
know that
"This
there's
is
no
great."
ordinance needed for option one.
We're doing great.
And we also have the task force going
And
for
that's
us.
right.
Okay, so we're off of that now. Is that,
Okay,
where's my,
there we go. New business.
okay, discussion 2020, we've tabled it. We have not voted on the tabling, correct? Dan, did you have to
I made a motion, someone
I seconded.
seconded.
Did you have to revise that based on the one and three, to bring
No.
it tabled and brought back with?
No, no
Okay.
revision. Vote to table.
Vote to table? You have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Matthew?
Oh, no, just
No discussion. Well, you don't discuss it much.
We already
on the table.
discussed a lot. Yeah, we're good.
No public comment? Okay.
Like Sierra.
Go ahead, Sierra.
Yep. Board Member Corsi, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Carroll?
Aye.
Board Member Bauman?
Aye.
Board Member Shalkowski?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines?
Aye.
And Chair Keough.
Aye. Okay, on to new business, discussion, Mitchell's Tropical Treats, Anchor Tenant Program and Business Facade Grant.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have Mr. Mitchell Hill here, present with us. I believe he was also at the last city council meeting. He shared some history with you all through public comment, and he was also kind and generous enough to send us an email that captured, I believe, in chronological order, some of the issues that he wanted to discuss with the board. Mr. Hill, would you like to do your presentation? And then the CRA board will likely ask some questions. And I just want to remind you, staff is on standby should you need any support on the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the council.
Name and address, please. Name and address. Name and address, please.
Mitchell Hill, 15264 Whitetail Loop, Mascot. Business address, 101 East Broad Street, Groveland, Florida. First, let me acknowledge a few comments heard tonight that says that nothing happens swiftly among the council. Surely that is not true. My being here is a testament that things does happen swiftly. Because I was here just a week ago, and here am I now meeting the CRA. That's acknowledge that you saw the seriousness of my presentation, and the document that I left, which was attached to my presentation, seemed to have brought some swiftness in your reaction. Thank you very kindly for your reaction. Mr. Mayor and members of the council and our city manager, I made a presentation, and I guess you would have had time to overlook and review many things I said. But I just go a little further today because I wanted to strengthen that by saying the truth is the unfulfilled promise has impacted Mitchell's Tropical Treats in a very significant way. We went far above our intended budget because we were assured, and we truly believe that the city of Groveland, through the CRA, supported small businesses that chose to invest in this community. For those familiar with the location, customers often walk in and reminisce. This used to be a thrift store. I remember when it was a doctor's office. This is where council members used to have their building. But when we walked in, what we saw wasn't nostalgia. It was extensive damage. The floors were in such bad condition that our carpenter, contractor, advised us we had no choice but to redo the entire thing to avoid safety hazards. Repaired holes in the walls, which were like a wave in the ocean, upgraded lightings, addressed plumbing issues, and improve the electric system to make the building safe and functional. On the exterior, we pressure washed, painted, added murals from local artists, and flowers to uplift the area. We even took on the lawn and property upkeep, not because it was our responsibility, because of concern raised publicly during a post on Groveland Weathermouth. On that post, community members spoke about walking through the area and seeing trash and garbage where people had been littering, as well as concerns about the general appearance of the surrounding. It was clearly stated that these issues were not caused by the businesses, but rather were related to overall area upkeep. Still, we didn't want Mitchell's tropical trees associated with that negativity, so we took it upon ourselves to maintain the surroundings, lawn and walkway area regularly. We made all these improvements because we genuinely believe we would receive financial support from the city, support that would help offset the heavy investment we made. We launched programs earlier than planned, invested in high-end equipment, and expanded services on the assumption that reimbursement would be forthcoming. But it didn't come. And as a result, we are operating month to month. Despite that, we still employ 4 staff members, including myself, because we remain committed to local employment and provide opportunities within the neighborhood. Even though the city's promise have not yet been fulfilled, we have stayed true to our mission. We are more than an ice cream shop. We are a community partner. In just a year and 6 months, we have partnered with the Neighborhood Center, Love Groveland, the Groveland Police Department, the Groveland Fire Department, South Lake High School, Libby's Breast Cancer Foundation, and sponsored local sports teams, and many more. And we continue to explore partnership with local realtors and Advent Health. Mitchell Tropical Trees is fully committed to Groveland. We signed a 5-year lease because we believe in the city's vision and believe in what we can contribute. However, we respectfully ask that the CRA and the City of Groveland honor the support originally discussed and consider my additional financial assistance or grant opportunities currently available. Any such support would greatly help our business stabilize, continue to grow, and further increase our ability to serve and strengthen this community. We have upheld our end of the commitment. We simply ask the City of Groveland to uphold theirs. I thank you.
Thank you. We may have some questions for you.
Sure.
I'm sure we have some questions for Mr. Maslow. So we can begin with any questions. Steve, why don't we begin with you?
Yes, I spoke with staff a little bit about this, but I just wanted to know, based on what has been said, has there been any grants that have been applied for currently or that have been in the works in the past for this establishment?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So as soon as I got the email actually from Sierra with the speaking points that Mr. Hill made at the last city council meeting, I immediately went to our CRA records, our project folder, did a wide search, looked in every folder I could possibly research for both either an agreement or a draft agreement that was maybe not even executed, or even an application. I was personally not able to find any document of the sort. I also asked Travis in our city clerk's office to perform a public records request to see if there's something that I missed. Maybe it was in another folder or in minutes or even a draft or an application. He wasn't able to find such either. Going off of the chronological order from Mr. Hill, it appears that there were conversations perhaps with Mrs. Worthington, who used to be employed by the CRA, and the previous mayor in terms of potential programs. But according to my records, I wasn't able to find an agreement, a draft agreement, or an application. So I'm happy to listen to more information from Mr. Hill, or again reiterate that staff is on standby to listen to the board in terms of action that you would like to take on this.
And then, sir, do you know if, when you were speaking to the staff or the former mayor, was there an amount that was talked about, or it was really just the high-level discussion about applying for a grant? Do you recall?
Thank you for the question, sir. Yes, when we spoke with both Mayor and Ms. Worthington, they did fill out an application. Sorry, not they. Ms. Worthington did fill out the application we signed. Reference to 80-20 and 50-50. Sorry, it was 80-20 and 50. Go back their notes. 80-20, and there were loans to grant, and then we were told that it has moved to 50-50 in some discussion later. But initially, it was 80-20, and may have been 70-30, but it was moved to 50-50. But again, that was an application that we filled out with Ms. Worthington. They also signed the document, which we did. No, it was just an initial application, formal application. I can't say yes, but we did sign something that she filled out, applied for these two grants, or move to loan.
And then, was everything mainly verbal? Did you have any emails going back or forth, or any copies of the?
Yes, there are a number of emails which are part of my dates of the email also, and one was also a Google Zoom meeting with both Ms. Worthington and the mayor, the then mayor. So they are in my summary. I think I gave those dates also, the exact date and the time. One thing I'm not good at, sir, is remembering things, but I'm good at writing them down. So clearly, in my notes, they are all there as for time and date these things were happened.
Thank you, sir. In full disclosure, I'm a big customer of his ice cream, so.
Sorry, I didn't hear that, sir.
I was just telling the board, full disclosure, I'm a big fan of your ice cream, so.
Thank you very much. I look forward to serving you one of these good days again.
Okay, Amy Jo?
Do you have copies of what you signed?
No, it was just, I actually entered the office there in discussion, and she said, should an application is signed here, and I just did that, and I was not given a copy at all.
It's with Brooke, though. Okay. Okay, that's the only question I have right now.
Those dates are actually in my timetable. They I met her and also the mayor. Everything is documented there in the folder I gave, with chronological, the dates and everything, and the discussions with each person that I met.
Is there a specific dollar amount that you're seeking?
We spent over $100,000, sir. All right. Again, the city said they would have given us some would be grant and the monthly payments after 3 months, and then after the complete after a year when when they bought all the receipts, they then give us monies to that effect. I don't want to say that there's a figure that I have unless you ask me to present my my receipts, which we're happy to present if required, to see what money was spent. If there's a need to reimburse what was mentioned in the CRA program at the time, be happy to receive that amount, sir.
Okay. I would be more interested in seeing the correspondence that was actually made, the actual copies of the emails, not just references to the emails, to see what was exactly said. To my knowledge, historically, the CRA has always had contracts for grants and for the facade issues as well. There's always been an application process, and the board approves it as a whole, as the former mayor or the manager cannot approve that contract unilaterally, to my understanding. It has to be approved by the board. So did you ever appear before the CRA prior and make that case known as far as you were interested in the grant? Or was it just with the former
Sir,
mayor?
forgive me, sir, I'm not hearing you very clear, so if you could repeat, and not hear, especially, you know,
There's a process for the grants,
yes.
and it can't be approved by the former mayor or the manager. It has to be approved by the board. So did you ever previously appear before the CRA and request the grant or the facade improvements or the tenant improvements?
Like I said, sir, I never, I signed only one document. That was the initial document Ms. Warren asked me to sign when I spoke about, when we met in her office to discuss this whole, these two programs. Since then, it was a matter of advising us that we are on board. You will hear from us. The committee is meeting, and we'll get back to you. You know, everything looks very good. We sent her email, and she acknowledged the email and thanked us for the email and so on. That yes, we will move to that next stage. You know, we just hold on. We will get back to you. And that was the sort of email discussion we've had right through. Advisor that we have now, she suggested to us two locations that we could go as and speak to those persons as possible landlords. We did that. We updated that we have finally met with one of the, both, and decided on one of the landlord. We moved to agree to make the lease agreement. We advised that the lease is in place, and we're moving to the next stage. All that was given to her in email, date by date. So she was aware of our progress day by day.
I'm also a fellow businessman. I'm actually down the street from you, but as a businessman, I don't proceed typically with those kinds of improvements without having something in writing first. And
There are emails to that effect, sir. I mean, emails are dated, and I have copies of them made to give to you, sir.
okay. So, I mean, I would like to see the actual emails and the actual correspondence. How would it help your business to receive these funds at this point?
Well, first of all, the number of commitments that I made personally, and so did my son and the business, to one, improve, go beyond what we had initially injected or had planned. We improve our equipment. We went from a tabletop to a standing machine. The floor had to be.
I've been in the building. I'm aware. I've been in the building previously. It did need improvement.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you much. And you know, there are some areas which definitely had to make some major investment to have them for safety, etc. So all those were not in the plan, and we had to do them. We went into a third freezer, right, when we had initial plan for 2 freezers, because we were offered the opportunity to have part of the CRA program, and these monies were coming to us. So we went ahead, made some loans, got loans and so on to do all this. Credit card payments were done to ensure that we had all the material in place.
I understand. If and when it comes down to what will help businesses the most, I think the city's actually doing the most important thing by realigning Highway 50 so that it's actually a walkable downtown. I did read through some of the comments that were submitted, and they're comments that I still get after being here for almost 30 years about, we didn't know you were here. And I've been there for almost 30 years now. The fact is, people drive through downtown so fast, they don't look left or right, they just keep going. And it's not a conducive environment for walkable traffic, so it's not an enjoyable experience to walk down State Road 50 right now. But as far as this goes, I would definitely want to see correspondence before I made any kind of decision. Thank you.
And I must add to you, sir, thank you for the comment you made a while ago about the fact that there has been the talk in town when we came to Groveland. Nothing like that has ever been in Groveland. And I said in my opening remarks that while Orlando has its Disney, Claremont has its hills, Orlando will now have Michelle's Tropical Treats. And that was to create something different, something unique in Groveland, with people not only in Orlando, not only in USA, people from all over the world has come to Michelle's Tropical Treat for that experience. I've had people from Ireland, I've people from England, I've people from South America, from Australia, who came here in Florida, stayed maybe in the Kissimmee area where there's a lot of people coming there, and they've drove straight to here just to experience our ice cream. So we are bringing people here on a regular basis from all over the world to experience Groveland, the city of charm.
Okay, thank you. Dan?
So, Mr. Hill, thank you for being here, by the way. I can see you're very passionate, and I appreciate that. And I know it takes a ton of passion to come to Groveland and to start something where there's nothing. So I get that. It is an uphill battle. I'm the same. I was in that park for a year and a half with the community market, and people said, how long have you been here? A month? You know, like it's a hard thing to get attention. And I read through your whole explanation. So I don't have a lot of questions about the timeline or anything like that. I already talked to Tim. I would like to see emails and all that correspondence as well. One thing that you did mention that I haven't heard anybody else mention is your landlord was involved in those conversations as well, correct?
No, I said that Ms. Worthington advised us of 2 locations which we could look at as possible landlords.
Oh, okay. So the landlord wasn't involved in any correspondence between?
No.
Because they do, when those grants were available, those landlords, property owners also had the availability to use those grants? That's why I was asking.
If what?
The landlords, when those grants were available, the landlords, the property owners also had the ability to apply for those grants, so that's why I was asking if you're a landlord. Okay. And I would say, too, I mean, I went in there just a couple months before you leased it. I walked the whole space as well. It needed a ton of work. And, you know, it's definitely doing good work to make improvements to any property downtown. But I think where we're at here is we do need to see where those emails or contractual agreements or anything like that. Me personally, I think that's something we would like to see. But aside from that, if there is no path forward, what are our options, or are there options currently in our business incentive program for anything, including maybe reimbursement for permit fees or anything like that? That's just a question for Tim. I'm not saying you have to answer that right now, but if this comes back for any kind of vote, I think that would be helpful to know what the resolution could be if there is no other resolution.
I just want to remind the board there's a couple actions that have been taken just in the last 2 to 3 years. First action was rewriting the actual small business grant program. I don't think it was a unanimous vote of approval when the CRA made this vote, but they ultimately approved removing restaurants away from the small business grant program, and that was a couple years ago, I believe. The second item that the board, most recent board, when we voted on the budget, is we voted to allocate the majority of our funds towards infrastructure projects. There was no monies allocated to small business grants. Again, not everybody on this board was in favor of that, but the majority voted to make that decision. So those 2 things would just have to be looked at if we were looking at another potential application with this. And staff would be happy to look at some other alternative options that might be outside the CRA. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but we're happy to take recommendations or advice from the board, of course, and work on bringing some resolution to this.
Yeah, I'd just clarify, we removed that so that we could put money in infrastructure. Wasn't that what the vote was?
Correct.
Okay, let's go ahead.
You have the email that between you and Brooke as it relates to when you signed this paper that Brooke had you sign, what was the paper?
It looks like an application.
An
Yes,
application?
an application, yes.
Okay, and
Right.
you signed it and she took it back?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, she took that.
Okay, so as I'm sitting here, I'm understanding that you do have an email that makes reference to that? That makes reference to the signed application, like, okay, we have this now and we're going to send it forward?
I don't think there's an email which says, I have now received your application and you'll be going forward X, Y, Z within 2 days. I don't remember that there's such email. But the email that I spoke to referenced to the fact that she acknowledged that she has given us information and we was going to proceed in this way, moving ahead in this way and this way. But I don't think I have to go back on that email is on my computer, but I don't think that I remember seeing one that says, I have now received your signed document and it will proceed this way, or within 2 weeks, so on, so on, so on. I don't think that is something I remember seeing.
I am just looking for something that says that this wasn't, that pretty much you weren't out to lunch, that in fact, it was a two-way street. So that's why I'm asking you about any documents that reference this application, since there isn't one in the files nowhere to be found. That is why I'm asking for a substantiation, if you will, of that. So that's where I'm going with this. But 99% plus of businesses in America are small. I feel that it is our responsibility here in the city of Groveland to help small businesses come and to be sustained here. I do not believe that we should make it difficult for small businesses to come here. Now, when this vote was taken for restaurants not being included, I don't really recall. I probably was one that voted against it because restaurants are small businesses. A lot of things are impacted. People that worked in factories or work downtown, they have to go to restaurants. Restaurants is a service industry, and it's a small business. And if through the, I don't want to use the word hype, but for a lack of a better word, hype, whereas this was Michelle's resting place, I believe that it was stated the last time that this was an incentive. The grants and the facade and the anchor tenant was a incentive to come here. If you could get us that email, I would like to see. And I don't understand why restaurants or those types of service industries were not included in the facade and anchor tenant grants. But if we made a decision, or Mr. Mitchell, came here with hopes and promises of something to happen, then I am asking that once this information is presented to us, that we reconsider. This man has 4 employees. They're contributing to the community. in more than just a business way. They're out there contributing to the community. Groveland, we need to do better. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it means on the website, interested in doing business in Groveland, learn about the anchor tenant facade grants, or whatever it is that we are doing here, and lay it out step by step by step, so there are no missteps when it comes to communication and filling out the applicable application and the necessary steps that are taken. Perhaps maybe someone will have to walk with people through this. If you're not familiar with it, if you don't know what you don't know. The ball was dropped somewhere. And I am suggesting that we take a look at this, reconsider, and do what we have to do to make this right. Thank you.
May I add to that, Council, is we also have a, it was, I think it's a letter or email where we are advised about 6 weeks prior to our opening that they have now removed, I think it's ice cream shop, from the list of recipients. So there's, all the time this was being considered. It was a plus, plus, plus. And only 6 weeks before opening, we got this information that they had now removed this. So I'm saying to them that, I don't know why there's no document to be found, but the fact is, all along, there were information, letters, emails, etc. We spoke to the fact that we are considering this, we are looking at that, we're moving towards this, and then we get called to both a Zoom call about small business development, and then further than that, a correspondence with advisors. They're now removing 6 weeks before opening. At that time, we already signed lease, building almost completed, right? That we're going to remove ice creams from that list of recipients. So there's no doubt at all in my mind, that we had permission or to go ahead and move ahead, because we kept them updated as we went along, what is happening. And we were never told, sorry, don't go any further, stop. The city is not going to approve this, stop. We were told, keep on going, it's going, meeting on this date, right? And then 6 weeks before, that's when the information came to us. Now, that can't be right. That cannot be right. I'm saying it's not just Miss Wellington or the then mayor, it is the city of Groveland. City of Groveland that we were dealing with.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, may I? It's just some comments that Board Member Corsi had mentioned also made me also recall, typically these grants also include liens on the property. So if it does go forward, I think the landlord would also have to be involved.
That's a good point. Very good point. I just have a few, I don't know if they're questions, but statements. And I passionately love your product and what you do for the community. But can you answer, did you ever get any correspondence that said your application was approved?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
When the 6 weeks prior, when you were told no more ice cream shops, but we will do coffee shops and all that, did you protest that to anybody? Did you let anybody know that you had expected something in return from the city, and now that it wasn't coming during that 6 weeks?
Well, surely, verbally, I was stunned, and I spoke to Ms. Warrington about it. I says, this can't be right. This can't be right, madam. Here we are moving ahead. You never said to us we should stop. It can't be right. I don't think I wrote a letter, but I'll check and see if I did say in my letter that this is not fair and so on. But we also, in our first 8 weeks, I think, of operation, we had coffee in our store. We did sell coffee in our store.
But you expected still to get reimbursed after you were told there was 6 weeks prior to opening, you were told no funds were available or that was not applicable anymore, and at that time you still expected after a year you would get a reimbursement?
Listen, we were at the time planning the opening, all right, of the store. And at that time, I don't think we were in the mode of writing a letter at that time. We were just moving to open the store, right? We opened the store, had a grand opening. Things were, going fairly well. There's a motion. You see the motion of a new store coming. People are commenting and so on. And then I think election was on its way. I think you became mayor some day after that. And we came here, and I made a comment about it. Ms. Wellington was sitting, I think, right here, and she promised to go deeper into it. I think she was ordered by you or the council to look into it deeper. Then when I got to her office, I think I was told she's moving on, she's resigning, something like that to effect.
Okay, very good. Did we ask the former mayor, or were we able to ask Brooke what their recollection was on all this?
I have not been in touch with either of them, no. But I would be happy to review any kind of email correspondence that Mr. Hill has, just to have a better idea of the conversations and any commitments that may have been made.
I'm just looking for intent. Was there a real intent there? And the Zoom meeting, you record Zoom meetings, right? That most businesses do.
Typically public meetings,
Yeah.
any pre-application meetings or just ad hoc meetings, we typically do not record. But again, I could ask the city clerk's office if that's, or the IT department, if that's possible to research that.
For you, what is the ask? I heard somebody say how much. What is your ask? What is your expectation that the city owes you?
Clearly, sir, the city in the CRA program, it speaks to two grants, right, or loan to grant. We're expecting those to be fulfilled.
Yeah, but you said you've done the first year, you have the receipts, you have everything in your thing. So you've gone through your receipts, you have all the stuff what was that dollar amount?
We over $100,000, sir. But the city didn't promise us all of it. So some were 80-20 in one area, and I think 70-30, and it was moved to 50-50 in another area, right? So we'll have to now compile it and get back to you. As you see, which was 50, which was 80.
It really would make a big deal of difference to me to understand what you're asking for. And, I know you're passionate and all that, but, you've said 100,000. You've said, I just need to know what you're asking for.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I honestly thought that the fact that you were speaking to the CRA program, and in the CRA program, it speaks to what was amount 80-20 or 50-50, and that's what the figures I was expecting to get back.
I understand that, but now you've got your first year receipts, right? And that's what it says here, that you would have to take those receipts and present them for.
That's right.
All I want to know is, what does that mean? I mean, do you have your first year receipts? And have you put together that spreadsheet that says, under your original?
No, I have not.
Under the original commitment, what is it that we actually owe? That's very important.
I'll be more than happy to have that to you within days, sir.
Not to me, to Mr. Maslow, and he can distribute it, because I can't give it to anybody else if you give it to me. But that would be my number one concern before I could act on anything else, is to understand what it is you're asking for. Okay. Any further discussion? Should we have do we need a motion to discuss this, to table this, or this is just a discussion? So I appreciate your coming to us, and we'll get back to you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, any correspondence that I receive from Mr. Hill, I'll be sure to share with the group and keep you all in the loop in the conversation.
And just as a private conversation, I would understand the prejudice against restaurants, you know, because you're ending up with a one-day part, and I've never seen a city that didn't have them because so they could have more than one day part in the city. So I would really like to understand the logic behind that. Okay?
We'd be happy to have that presentation again,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Question, sir? So my next move is to submit the information to the city manager.
That is absolutely correct. And any
Community and Economic
documentation,
Development Director, and I'm not the city manager, that's City Manager, Mr. Hine, yeah. My name is Tim Maslow, the Community and Economic Development Director. I just didn't want that confused in the record for anybody's history. The city manager is Mr. Hine, and I report to him.
Your position is, sir?
Community and Economic Development Director. But again, I'm happy to work with you on this.
So direct it to him, sir?
yes,
Okay, got you.
please do. Thank you very much.
Trying to avoid any
And
confusion.
remember, not only that, but all the documentation, the emails that were asked for, you have a list that will be in the minutes that we can make available to you of all the things you've committed to while we had questions going on here. And that's very important that you get all those together in a packet so we can all see them, okay?
What happened to you, sir?
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you much.
Okay, next up, consideration for approval, Resolution 2025-75, year-end 2025-26 CRA roll forward budget amendment. Yes, ma'am, who's coming forward? Okay, thank you. This is the longest I've ever been without seeing you. We haven't seen you since budgets.
Chair Keough.
If we could have the city clerk read the title, please.
Oh, yes, please, Sierra.
Resolution 2025-75, a resolution of the City of Groveland Community Redevelopment Agency Governing Board amending the 2025-2026 fiscal year annual budget to include forward budget from fiscal year 2024-2025 and reflect increases in expenditures in the 2025-2026 fiscal year budget, providing for Scrivener's errors, conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
Now, thank you.
All right, well, that was a mouthful. So what did all of that mean? So let's look at this. This is kind of like a housekeeping item that we do at the beginning of every fiscal year, right? It's carrying forward the funds from what, as of right now, the unaudited balance for the CRA from fiscal year FY25 and moving those funds into fiscal year 2026. So as you can see on the slide here, when we looked at that, we originally budgeted 1.1 million, just over 1.1 million in carry forward funds, which were for projects that we knew would carry forward, okay? One of those being the Lake Ave and Cherry Street that you see up there, the 20,000 for Gatson Trail, those kinds of things are what move forward. So when we did and looked at the unaudited balance, we had an additional $791,882.85. So we're looking at those to be moved into revenues, and then they want to appropriate them. We want to appropriate $731,882.85 into the Lake Ave Cherry Street stormwater. Streetscape and stormwater, excuse me. And then we also want to add $60,000 of budget into CRA equipment for wayfinding signage in the city. So the projects as they stand right now in the CRA for fiscal year 25-26, excuse me, are the South Lake Avenue Cherry Street, streetscape and stormwater. Originally, right now with this amendment, there would be $1,465,822.85 in CRA funds. There is a CDBG CV grant that is totaling $765,000, and then we also have received a stormwater appropriation grant for $500,000. I do know that in addition to that, they are looking into the Lake County Water Authority for additional grants to help with this and take I don't want to say some of the pressure, but take some of the responsibility off of the CRA for those funds as well. The other one we have is the downtown infrastructure projects, where we currently have $1,709,800. We're adding the wayfinding signage, so the signage, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Tim, I think that where they're looking at that signage being would be at the health center, or the health center, I'm gonna call it, down between Claremont, or Groveland and Mascot. Boy, I'm having problems talking tonight. Would be one there, and then one also at Splitter Island.
Yes, and an additional wayfinding sign for the health center near their facility. So 3 signs total. They equate to about 48,000 total, but it gives us a little space for any additional signs that might be needed during the year.
That was budgeted before, right? The wayfinding?
It just wasn't used last year, so that's why it's part of the carry forward funds, and we're just trying to make sure it's still aligned with the board's direction in terms of having gateway signs coming in and leaving the CRA boundary, and then ultimately in conversations with the city manager, we'll be looking at that same gateway sign that will be on the west side of the city, leaving Mascot, coming into Groveland, replicating that on the east side, leaving Claremont, coming into Groveland on State Road 50 on the east side. And then likely looking at next year, having a north entrance gateway and then a south entrance gateway. We just haven't selected those exact locations just yet. We are very close with FDOT on the permitting. I mentioned that at last month's meeting. We expected to have those approved based on the meeting that we had with them just last week within the coming days.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
So that's what is before y'all this evening, is to recognize, we'll go back here, let me go back a slide, is to recognize that additional $791,882, put $731,882.85 into the Lake Ave and Cherry streetscape and stormwater, and then $60,000 into the CRA equipment and wayfinding signage. Comments, questions, concerns?
Comments, Matthew?
Not at this time, sir.
Amy Jo?
I'm just wondering if you could have made that more of a tongue twister for April. I mean, streetscape.
Yes.
Go ahead. That's it. Good.
Dan?
No, I don't have any questions.
Steve? Just one, we're matching funds, is that what I read? We're matching funds for
You
charity?
forgot
How
Barbara
about
again.
Huh?
How about the vice chairman
Yeah,
Gaines?
you forgot
if she
Barbara
wants?
again.
You're just so quiet, I'm
She
sorry.
needs a stick.
Yeah. Come on, say something.
Boo.
So we're matching funds from the grants, it's not totally paid for by grants?
It is not paid for completely by grants. I don't know that it's necessarily a match, it's just where we're looking for funds. Is it a match, Brenda? The lake, and I'm going to defer to Brenda on that because she's the project manager on that, so he's asking, is it a match? I think it's just we're fully funding the project to move forward because we don't have enough in grants to cover the project completely.
Yes, good evening, Brenda Toscano, Assistant to City Manager for Special Projects. That is correct. This is to make sure we have a fully funded project so we can proceed with the construction when we get to that phase. In the meantime, we're looking for other funds like the Lake County Water Authority. They authorize us to enter into their application process once we have a fully designed, construction-ready project. Because this is a design build, we don't have the design completed yet, but it will be completed. And we will present that application to the Lake County Water Authority to relieve some of the funds from CRA.
I'm just confused because I thought this is the cobblestone and all the stuff down here. I thought that was all grant funded.
At one point, before COVID, when we ran numbers just for the streetscape, literally just pulling the brick up, removing the asphalt, relaying it, having sub-base, doing some sidewalk work, that's about where the budget was when we realized we'd rather do a dig once strategy and also address stormwater and do the project on a more comprehensive level. the price went up astronomically, and then you also factor the last couple of years of inflation on top of it. It's a much different animal. We're looking at, on a per block basis, you're likely looking at about $750,000 if when you're looking at streetscape and stormwater infrastructure.
So we're still doing the cobblestone and still doing
Yes.
all the wiring and still doing all that, even though
Yeah.
the price has gone up?
Correct. It's still the reclaimed brick that's underneath, and you would think using materials that we already have would be cheaper, but it's a combination of cleaning it up, relaying it, putting in the subbase, making sure the stormwater infrastructure is underneath that, and then also there's, I think, some replacement of the brick because we're not expecting to have 100% of those bricks to be reclaimed. So we do have to buy some new brick that matches, and there's a cost associated with that, of course.
And that whole expansion has been approved by the CRA, correct? A former CRA?
That is a CRA project, correct. And that's from Cherry, taking what you see on Lake Avenue, literally across the street, between here and Lake David, and running that down to the Lake David Center.
I'm
So
just
it's about
talking
3
about
blocks.
the cost, the price. It was approved by you said it dramatically increased, because I swear I heard, not too long ago, this was all grant funded when we were doing budgets with, no.
Yeah, I think the grants that we have, if you go to the other slide, we have the CDBG at the 765, amounting to 500,000 with an additional stormwater appropriation grant. The rest is coming out of the CRA. But I think what Brenda alluded to is making sure that we have the design complete and then going after some additional grant dollars that might reduce the cost that CRA spends on the project, but making sure that we move forward with the contract, we have to have the funds allocated from somewhere for now. So if Brenda does a phenomenal job, which I expect her to do, this time next year when we're looking at the budget, we might have some additional carry forward funds from this project that could go to other infrastructure projects next year.
Thank you. And just to be totally clear, my concern is we have a thing called Avalon coming up that we have $3.5 million that's going to hit this group. First range is 95 apartments times $6,500. It has to come out of our treasury. So when we start expanding all this, I want you to keep in mind we should be reserving for some big hits that are coming down the pike. And I don't think we want to go borrow it. So let's please look at how we can save funds. And sometimes you have to do some engineering, re-engineering on cost to make sure that we save the pennies. And but I just appreciate you looking at that.
Yeah,
Okay?
absolutely. We are committed to value engineering wherever we can. This also includes the contingency, which we don't intend to use, because obviously that's more cost savings there. So we absolutely understand the need to be frugal.
Okay. And just a question, because somebody asked me, we're going to have a baffle system out here for the, which, is it near where the storm drain's going through? So at some time, the storm drain can be hooked up to or the baffles could be hooked up to get rid of that, or is it on the other
That is
end?
part of the design process. I would be happy to have a presentation for CRA as soon as we have some designs, a visual, to keep everyone up to speed, up to
Yeah,
date.
just so we can answer the question.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
but yes, there will be a baffle box where the existing drainage is. I just don't know the exact location because the design is not.
Well, I think the
Yeah.
question came to me because, we're not going to keep a baffle box when we get storm drains, right?
We're gonna have a catch basin. It's
So we're
gonna
going to
be-
have to
Yeah.
make sure that it's somewhere near the storm drain where the
Yeah.
baffle box is.
Storm drains are gonna be catch basins. They're gonna, yeah.
Good.
Improvements for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Chair, I have a question
Yes, sir.
for you. When you come back with that shovel-ready project, are you going to come with high-level line items as far as what certain things are costing in that project. Not necessarily, I'm not saying that's something that comes to approval for us if you guys have already gotten approved from previous CRA, but just for, I guess, transparency, for optics, for us to understand what these things cost, because I think, you know, if we're going over this for the next 3 years before the bypass goes in, it's helpful for us to see what those things are costing and how much they're increasing year over year. So when we go to the next project, we can kind of take that into account.
Absolutely, that's the beauty of this design build. It allows us to have that dialogue with what the expectation's going to be on cost, so I can do that.
Thank you.
You've gone through this, and just, you can send me an email, but I was told that storm drains are 50 million for the whole area, the whole Groveland, and 10 million for downtown. So I'd really like to know, after you've bid this out for this one street, if that 10 million is really realistic.
Okay, I can keep that in mind
Thank
for
you.
sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to accept?
I move to approve Resolution 2025-75.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any public discussion, comment? Sierra?
Board Member Baldwin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Corsi?
Aye.
Board Member Carroll?
Aye.
Board Member Shalkowski?
Aye.
Vice Chair Gaines?
Aye.
And Chair Keo.
Aye. She never forgets you. She never.
In fairness, you got Liz.
Discussion, CRA project, attribution signage.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mayor Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the CRA Governing Board. We're going to talk about attribution signage. And you're probably saying, what is attribution signage? We're going to have a little presentation as to just what attribution signage is. What we're going to be asking here is just for direction from the board whether to move forward with attribution signage. So attribution signage, if you're driving down the road and you see a roadway construction project or some sort of public agency spending going on, you frequently see these signs on the side of the road or near the project that tell you what the project is, where the funding source is coming from, who the project partners are, and sometimes there'll even be a schedule on there that tells you, when it's going to be completed, your pennies at work. So those are some examples of attribution signage there on the side. So Groveland signage, you've just passed your own wayfinding signage and city signage standards. So Groveland example for attribution signage, for example, Broad Street, it would show the location, general diagram of the improvements going in, the funding sources going in, who the project partners are, what the anticipated schedule is when it's going to be completed. And it would also utilize the Groveland wayfinding signage fonts and colors. So that's an example of what a Groveland attribution sign may look like. So requested action is just for your consensus to provide direction to staff regarding the potential use of attribution signage on future Groveland projects. And at the CRA board direction, we'll prepare examples of signage for CRA review and sign off on future projects. And that's the end of this presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Discussion. Ms. Gaines, I'm going to start with you from now on.
Have we had this before, attribution signs?
No, ma'am, not to my knowledge.
Okay, so then my question then becomes, why now?
It's come up from some of your colleagues on the board, and we want to make sure that we got a consensus among the board direction rather than just one individual. And I think the point is we're about to start making some substantial improvements in the downtown area. It would make sense to educate them in terms of what the project is, when we expect completions, where the sources of funding are coming from, and then also have some branding attached to the large-scale infrastructure projects.
And how many signs will there be?
That would depend on the number of projects that you all take part in and authorize. This is part of the larger transparency efforts of the CRA to let people know what projects are going on, where they're going on, and what the CRA is doing. And so it would be more of a public informational signage to let people know what the project is, why the road's torn up, what they can anticipate seeing there in the future, who the funding partners are, and when the project's going to be done. And so that sign will be there answering those questions for the public during the project's construction.
How do you know how to budget for it if, like if you said to me, we're going to have 6 signs, then it would be, the math would be 6 times whatever. But with these different ones coming up or coming along, how do you budget for it?
That's a very good question. We would look at each one of the different projects, your annual work plan. You would see how many projects you have. We would come to the CRA board and ask which one of these projects you would like to have attributional signage made for, and then we would get an estimate for the sign costs from your Public Works Department.
And what line item would that come out of, Director Tim?
That would be part of your overall project budget, your overall construction budget.
So for example, if we're allocating, well over $1 million of CRA funds for the South Lake Avenue project, you would take a little bit of that money out to create a sign that goes along with the project within that project budget. I couldn't imagine these signs running that much. John, probably talking about less than 1,000 each sign, or?
Yes, and it all depends on how efficient your Public Works sign-making department is with regards to the creation of those signs. This would be something that ideally would be done totally in-house by the city of Groveland.
By the city who?
The city of Groveland.
Oh, I thought you said city clerk. I was like, what?
But
Pardon me.
there's also
Here, you better get working on
expectations
some
in terms of, one might go to Disney and see the Pardon Our Dust, all those efforts they do on
Yes,
new projects over there. Of course, that's Disney, we're not Disney.
Of course.
But I think it's good just to kind of flesh out, different expectations around the branding and signage, just to make sure that once it's actually put up, we're all on the same page and none of us are surprised.
Well, I'm not against it. I just wanted to know, why now? I mean, because I've been here for a minute and it hadn't happened, and I just wanted to know if there was something major that had happened or whatever. Okay, thank you.
I like it. I think it's really good for transparency's sake. I'm just imagining like people, it cuts down on rumors too. People will be able to know exactly what the project is as opposed to our lovely rumor mill online. They just take a picture of the sign and post it on Facebook, and that's convenient, so it's good.
If they're as generally detailed as what's presented, I think it's a very good idea, because when they were doing the streetscape in front of my business downtown, people come, what are they doing? And you have to answer everybody. So I'm not in favor of the your tax dollars at work sign personally, because that just tells me my tax dollars bought that sign. But if it tells me what the project is, how long it's going to take, what it might potentially look like, I think that's a benefit for the community. So I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, I'm in favor. I think, I like the idea of it coming for every single project for approval, and not to sound too picky, but I think it would be cool for us to talk about what the design would look like. I know there's a standard there. I just think for the City of Natural Charm, we can have something a little nicer looking. So I understand that was probably Public Works, no offense to them. But I think if we're putting a sign and it's gonna sit there for 6 months, it should be something we're proud of. It's gonna cost the same to print regardless, so.
Mr. Chairman, he actually brings up a good idea too, that perhaps that could be part of the project approval process, is a preview of what the sign could look like with it, so it can all be done at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in favor of it. So I would also have some comments for the design and what gets on it, but not here and now.
Me too. I'm 100% behind it. I think it's, again, transparency, and even putting it up prior to the work being started. Sometimes, builds the anticipation a little bit. I would say that I'd love to see the thing, the line below where it says community redevelopment in bigger letters. You really want to brand that. And then also when it's going to be finished. Now, you talk about Disney, we always push it out 2 months past the due date so that everybody thought we finished early, but, you know, and kind of got an attaboy rather than be a day late, and then everybody said you're late. So, but, you know, in spring, finished in spring, finished in fall, it really gives, it really sets the tone so people understand how long it's going to be. Okay, so do you have what you need on that discussion item?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next up, business, item 7, business scope medical facility recruitment discussion.
Skip number 6.
Six, sir?
Did I turn 2 pages there? I'm sorry.
Realignment ready.
Alignment ready, scope, alignment, realignment ready, plan, scope.
The alliteration tonight, like all
That'd be Mr. Maslow. It says right here.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again, our slideshow, please excuse us when we change the agenda, just kind of change the order of the slide. So I'll make sure that Rob has the realignment ready plan slides pulled up for us. And Ms. Claudia Ray, who works with GAI, she works with John Jones. She's going to be the project manager on this. Again, we do not have an approved contract on this just yet, but by board direction at our last meeting, John and his team put together a scope. I think I've told you all in individual conversations, I think this is the most important thing that the CRA will do this year. We're fortunate that FDOT is moving forward with this realignment project for State Road 50. Expected to start a construction coming up in fall of 2026. Expecting that project to take a couple years for construction. But when we look at to 2028, once Broad and Orange and those connecting streets are turned over to the city jurisdiction, I want to make sure that we're shovel ready. We have a plan that's put into place. We have so many different options that we've talked about in previous years, whether to keep Broad and Orange one way, make them two-way, how's on-street parking taken care of, how do we address, you know, stormwater and utility work to be in tandem with these projects. This is the project that's going to help us make decisions and answer these questions so that when we go into next budget cycle, we have a clear idea, everybody's on the same page in terms of what we're doing with these streets, and we're going to be able to make better budget decisions. We'll also be more equipped to write for different grants to make sure that we're able to get these projects shovel ready when the realignment's complete. So with that said, Claudia, you want to take it from there? I'm going to go back to make sure that Rod has the right slideshow.
It's okay. I'm actually going to be on the side. I'm really short. I almost feel like I need to travel with the stepping stool for the podium. I was telling the clerk the other day, I was in a presentation and they took a photo from me over there and I can only see my glasses. It's like, why nobody told me that? So I'm going to try to stay here, be here. My name is Claudia Ray. I work with John at GAI Consultants Community Solutions Group. We are based in Orlando, but we are kind of a bigger engineering and planning and environmental company. You know, and we do have a continuous service contract with the city of Groveland since 2020. My name is Claudia Ray. I'm a trained architect. I'm a urban designer. I have my master's in urban design, and I've been working in planning, urban design, and for the past 20 years. Cities and towns and places is my passion, and I'm only killing time to introduce myself, who you are. Well, the presentation is there, but it's one of those people that I travel and I look at streetscape, I look at buildings, I look at everything around all of it. I mean, you come back and you see my photos, it's like my family say they're boring, they're not boring to me. You know, I pay attention to every detail. I look at the ground, I look up. So it's not just a job. It's basically who I am, what we do. An entire group, it's like that. We're a little bit of a geek of places and cities. To be honest, this is my second time in Groveland. The first time I just drove by because I needed to go to Port Richey. So this is the way that actually the GPS told me. This is actually my second time over here, but like I'd say to any city that I work for, I will learn your city, every single street, every single business, every one of you, any of the board members. This is personal to us, and we like to make places for people, and to be able to know that you need to know the place and you need to know the people. And that's where engaged. So I usually, for example, lead a lot of engagement. So I put together a presentation, and I'm actually glad that I'm almost last, so I got the chance to see how you guys interact. I know this is a discussion. We can also make it a tiny workshop. And talking about the menu, okay, when I put together a scope for you guys, it's almost like a meal. So I got a little bit of ingredients from Tim. He gave me an outline of things that the city and you guys want. Then John also told me a little bit of story, backstory. I did my own research. I got all those ingredients, and I make this presentation for you guys. I actually wrote a scope of work, but I'm missing your guys' ingredients to make this happen, okay? So nothing is set in stone. We are gonna talk about pricing at the end because we have to. And if we're going through this project, we're gonna have to have those conversations. And they're not comfortable or easy for anyone. So I'm gonna set that up. All right, so the agenda is, I'm gonna still give you a little bit of overview about GI and CSG and who we are. What is my understanding, GI's understanding of this plan, purpose and objectives based on the information that we receive. But we can actually, can you hear? Try that. And then I put together, I'm gonna present 4 projects that I think are really similar in scope and feel what you guys want. Sometimes not necessarily the scale. And then we'll go over the plan tasks, the timelines, and the fees, and we'll open up to Q&A. Now, it is somewhat of a long presentation, so is that okay that I open up for questions in the meantime, or you guys like to do it at the end? I'm flexible.
Let's do them at the end.
Well, whatever
To do it at the end?
board
Okay,
would
so
like to
take
see.
notes. All righty. So it takes a village to build a village, okay? So I'll be the project manager for this. And when we say GI's Community Solutions Group, it's because Community Solutions Group is what we have as a planning and design combined with a civil engineer. We actually have Natalia Kale was sitting over there. She's a resident. She didn't know that we were gonna be last, so she had to go do mom and put her kid to bed. But this will be our entire team working on this. We're gonna have Joan, of course, as a area coordinator. We're gonna have Blake Dury. He's our director of planning and urban design as a project director. Myself as an urban designer. We'll have Donald Wisher as a lead landscape architect. And in our civil side, we're gonna have Amy Shields as a lead civil engineer for stormwater specifically, and then we'll have Greg and Natalia on the water and sewer part. And we've been working together for honestly like 15, 20 years now, so we know each other pretty well. Background about GI, like I say, we are a big company. We're at 1,100 plus employees now, over 34 offices, and our Community Solutions Group offices are in Orlando, Jacksonville, Charleston, and Louisville. And pretty much what you see in the map is basically also the places that we have worked. Not only in Florida, but we do have a big presence in the Midwest and the East Coast and now in the Northeast. In our Community Solutions Group, the way that we see it, we're like a specialized group within GAI. We started this group 10 years ago. This was mainly an engineer firm, and From brown, we're like, we're gonna bring some color to that. Oh, this is how this goes back. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I can see now. So we're gonna bring some color. So we are actually a group of landscape architects, urban planners, designers, economists, park specialists, redevelopment specialists, and we work anything related to, the built environment. And our goal is to make, great places from people. So it takes a village. This is a village. This is a type of example of projects that we work for other places. Here's another one, a very long list of things that we do. And one of them, of course, is redevelopments and public realm plans. I'm gonna kind of skip this a little bit so we go, but talking about CRAs, I know that it was pretty enlightening to me to hear your conversations about the advisory board. Kissimmee, I think, once also won. So very good note. But we do work with a lot of CRAs. All CRAs are pretty different, pretty particular. They all are governed pretty much different. I do work with one very particular one. I've been working with them for the past 10 years, which is the Orange Blossom Trail Development Board. It's the only CRAs between two jurisdictions. It's City of Orlando and Orange County. So talking about complexity of making decisions and getting projects approved, you go across lines. So we've done this many times. We work with the Winter Park CRA. I'm working right now with the City of Kissimmee, updating their plan, for example, and one of the questions, during the plan process, like, do we need to have an advisory board? And in a lot of these places that we work, we technically start with the master planning process, like the bigger picture, and go down into details of construction. And that's what we're good at it. From planning to design to implementation to construction, and we can walk you through, guys, all those steps. I'm gonna go ahead and, this is not good. Sorry about that. There we go. So in terms of the plan purpose and objectives, I went ahead and kind of start developing that narrative. I mean, I think it's important to have in writing, right at the beginning of the process, what do we want? And we can shape this, not only for the scoping purposes, but even for your visioning purpose. So for now, it's like we want to develop a comprehensive plan in preparation of State Road 50 realignment project to guide circulation, street design, stormwater, and utility improvements along Broad Street, Orange Street, and that's how it ended when I got it from you guys. And I added an adjacent street. I would like to actually study all your network. It's not 2 streets. If we change 2 streets, it's still gonna change your entire network. So you need to still see the entire network over here. And parallel to that, we're gonna be able to reimagine what Festival Park is gonna become, and how this is gonna be a gathering place for downtown. So I know that you guys have a really long name for this, which is a realignment ready plan. To simplify this in terms of planning terms, it's technically what we call a public realm plan. So public realm consists of your streets and open space. That's what the public realm means. So that's what we're going to look for. We want to look at every street and every open space in here and how this realignment is going to affect that. So plan objectives, the list that the city sent me had a few of them, and I added personally a little more of them. So one of the first one I think is pretty important, it was not in the list, is we have to build on previous planning work. I mean, we're not gonna start from zero. You guys have done a lot of work. You're already working with a stormwater consultant and the utility consultants doing other work. There's tons of stuff, even though that conceptual master plan in your plan, a lot of those ideas still pretty valid. So we don't want to start from zero. We'll review everything that you guys have and kind of study what is going to be some of the gaps. Looking at this, we want to make sure that we're improving multimodal circulation and connectivity in downtown. We reimagine and redesign, some primary streets in Festival Park. We're gonna enhance the streetscape, aesthetics, and safety of the streets. We wanna be able to plan for stormwater and utilities. And with this process, we wanna make sure, like Tim was saying, positioning the city for future engineer and permitting and funding opportunities for this project. And at the end, it's all about collaboration. We'll have a very robust engagement process that we can collaborate with the staff, with other consultants, with you guys, and maybe with the task force, I heard, and anyone that is gonna have a say and a voice in this project. Alrighty, so I'm gonna walk you guys through 4 different places that we work. Some of these places we've been working with them for a while. So we've been working with these places for probably, we started this meeting that I'm having 10 years ago and 5 years ago. So it's a long road to go. Planning and construction takes time, but you do need to start somewhere. So let's start with downtown Ocoee. How many of you have ever been in downtown Ocoee? Recently? Okay. So 10 years ago, in 2015, we did a downtown master plan for them. There's not a CRA here, and unfortunately, they missed their boat about that. But we were there, and the task was to do a downtown master plan, then to envision, circulation, open space opportunities, stormwater opportunities, and also development opportunities. But at the same time, back in their zoning was pretty fragmented, so also think about what was the zoning ordinance gonna be to change here. And at the end, what we did is the drawing that you see over here in downtown Ocoee, we tend to draw what I call, it's almost someone wanted a fake plan. So when you try to test redevelopment and how much an area can do, we do that to help inform your code, but you already have that in place. So we did look at every single street in connectivity. Ocoee is almost like a sister city of Winter Garden. So east-west, Oakland Avenue actually connects all the way to Winter Garden. So over there, they wanted to have something similar to the street that I have there. They also wanted to make sure that one of the biggest things is they needed to relocate City Hall. City Hall was way too close to the lake and was sinking. So they wanted to move City Hall closer to downtown, which we helped find a location and we did it. And then Bluefer, which is a north side street, was another one they wanted to take a close look at it. And the other process is they wanted us to identify a location for stormwater facility and a stormwater park and how big or small this was going to be. So similar to here is the street network, there's stormwater, and the park. And we also looked at it like from park vision. We created a vision for them. We did not look at utilities over here, which 10 years from now was a mistake because a lot of the town over here is still on septic. So it's really hard to redevelop a community when you're still on septic. And we ran all this through a lot of community engagement. So here are a few images of our design process. So on one side of your screen, you're looking at the Bluefer Avenue vision. We went ahead and did that. Today, on the other side, it's Bluefer Avenue under construction. And then in 2025, in this Bluefer Avenue is where the new City Hall is. So the image on top doesn't have the City Hall yet. So the City Hall architects in that project was actually going parallel to this at the same time. Another one that is still work in progress, Oakland Avenue. It was one of the east-west streets over here. They have tons of right-of-way, but it was a very, very small street, and they wanted to make it a complete street, and they want to be able to make, similar to Winter Garden, a trail going in between with the two roads to be brick and future development. This road actually is still in construction today. That one in below is a street view of the road. And what I will say, it was actually one of the signature projects is we were able to identify a location for a stormwater park during the master planning process. And during the master planning, we actually drew this bigger when we actually sharpened our pencils and got the engineers involved in the calculations. We were able then to kind of narrow down the location, even the size of the stormwater pump. And the city, we helped the city to identify this 10 single-family residential lots is about 5 acres, and build this 5-acre stormwater park that actually stores up to 4.1 millions of gallons of stormwater for downtown. And the red boundary that you see over there is a 40-acre water basin. So everything is gonna get redeveloped within those 40 acres. The stormwater is already being allocated in this park. So it's not a regular retention pond, it's actually a really nice amenity. It opened up early this year. And it's a great, and now there's actually a memorial there, and there's tons of activity, and we don't know actually how much it's performing. We'll need to actually keep track of performance metrics of this facility, but it's there. Another point, I'm gonna kind of go back in some of the slides. When we did the master plan, we actually provided the town with the cost. When you see all the numbers in this page, those were all the projects where they're identifying in the master plan. We provided costs for them, including, it was included in the city hall relocation. And what the city decided, because they didn't have a CRA, they actually bond all this money. They went up to the city manager and the mayor and created a bond, and they were actually, out of all these projects, were able to complete in the past 10 years. The majority of the infrastructure and public realm projects are completed. So pretty successful. Downtown Maitland was another. Downtown Maitland, we did work in Downtown Maitland. It was a CRA plan update when we worked with them. And one of the challenges with Maitland is, even though it was called downtown, no one knew where downtown was in Maitland. It was not very well defined. Everyone thought that the primary street or the face street was gonna be 1792, which is a state road, and you can't. It's not a walkable place. It's not a walkable street. So what we decided in the master planning level is try to create then a parallel street. So we move what we call Main Street to the west of 1792, and it's called now Independence Lane. So when we're redesigning and kind of reconfiguring the entire downtown, we actually take that into consideration. This is gonna be our new address, if you wanna say, for downtown. So that was kind of the first step. So the one below, it was the master plan created for the CRA. But in terms of public realm contributions that we made over there is we proposed this new Main Street called Independence Lane. This Main Street was anchored by City Hall, and there was like a vacant piece of land next to it, which it became a square for them. So as a part 2 of the master plan, we were scoped to then provide schematic design and construction documents for the landscape portion for Independence Lane and this Independence Square. And we did a lot of engagement with that. And this is how the space looks today. So Independence Lane actually was designed as a shared street. You have brick, no wall to wall. This brick actually stays where the cars are, but it has no curve. And it gives them the flexibility to do a lot of festival because you don't want people sometimes to trip in there. And then next to that is Independence Square, right next to this. So it creates like a really great synergy between the two spaces and City Hall. So now they have this small civic complex all together where they run the majority of the events. Now Independence Lane, this is phase 1. Then the next block south will be phase 2, which, to be honest, I don't know where the statute is, but it should be happening soon. And the difference over here, we did not touch about stormwater because the city already had that figured out. But what we do when we do streetscape project is we try to treat water as much as we want right there on site. So as much as we can incorporate green infrastructure or low impact development, which is, these are some rain garden planters from the streetscape. We also include that in the park. We'll do that so we are not still overloading even the capacity of your system when it's needed. The other pretty recent project that Donald and Amy from our civil group and Donald from a landscape group finished is the Packing District. The Packing District is, the client is Dr. Phillips Foundation in partnership with the city of Orlando, so this is a private development. But two of the tasks that we had over there as well, we didn't do the master plans, but we were tasked to look at the streets and the new park was built. And the challenge with this is these are not any streets. We were needed to make Princeton Avenue and OBT livable streets. We needed to incorporate bike facilities, trails, stormwater planters, shade, and you needed to be able to create even that buffer when people were walking and feel comfortable on that. And it's the same for the park. The park already has your traditional stormwater and lake on it, but they just wanted a big, large civic space to have the capacity to actually host large events for all this development. So we recently opened the 2 streets and the park in the last year. We provided landscape architecture and civil services for concept design, detail design, construction documents, and construction administration for this. And here are some photos of the build project from the streets and the parks and the trail. The image on the bottom, actually, what you see those people walking, they're walking on, it's a multi-purpose path. But also we do have in the one where you have the big bench, once again, we try to incorporate stormwater planters to catch as much water that we can from the street right there in the design and incorporate it with what we do. And last but not least, this is a place very dear to my heart. I don't get to travel outside Florida for many projects anymore. I used to. But we did work at the village of Wauwatosa. It's a small village. It's a suburb of Milwaukee, almost. It is a very affluent town. And when we got there, they also want to do a public realm master plan. The funds were already allocated for the plan. We do have an office, a GI office in Wisconsin, and our civil group reached out to us saying that they needed help with this project. So we went. So I think in terms of scope of work and even size, I think this is the project that might be a little more comparable to maybe what you guys want to achieve. So we did look at an entire street network, and every single street in this town is different and is unique, and it has a different purpose. So we want to make sure they do that. The business owners were very involved in this. The mayor was very involved in this. And at the end, we came out with a plan that we all decided that, you know, the main corridor that you see over there, diagonal, that is a very busy corridor. A lot of cars running through there, and we still make the decision to make that a shared street. There's other streets diagonal to that they still function as a one-way pairs with parking. They didn't have a park a lot, so we actually were able to redesign how the streets were, realign the streets to make room for a green space that didn't exist. So we did that in the top, and we designed that park. And we also, at the end of this, we of course needed to look at every single intersection, because once you start changing the street design, you need to actually look at how that joint works. So this is Share Street inspiration images that we use over there. It actually didn't take us too much time to convince the stakeholders and the business owners about this concept, but if this is something that you guys think it needs a little bit more convincing, on you and your community, we're happy to do it. It's a very old concept and it's doable in, the US. There's some rules in Europe that are more flexible than here, but we'll follow that. So here's an image of the build projects. This is a view of the shared streets design. Back then when we started, they also already had their wayfinding system done, so we needed to integrate some of the textures that they added. And in that shared street space, this is now their future space. This is what you see in their website. Once a year, they actually do. There's a lot of restaurants in downtown Wauwatosa, so they all come up and do this kind of family dinner that is only by invite, put this huge large table and close some of the streets. They have a street race, is pretty popular, and now they also have an art show in these streets. Because of the beautiful network that they have, they can take the advantage of closing the streets pretty comfortable during the year. Here are more additional photos of the park in the middle, some of the streets. There'll still be one way with bike lanes, with parking on the side, plus the shared street, plus the park. So this kind of town has a pretty diverse type of like streetscape and street design that works for them. So that's what we'll do for you. We'll look at everyone and see what it will be the appropriate street configuration that you guys need to achieve to make Groveland work. And we do a lot of work. I mean, what I show you is probably the tip of the iceberg. We do look a lot of configurations. We show it to you. We show it to the public. They vote. And it's a process that we have. We've done it in many places, and it's a step process that we can do for you guys. So talking about the process, so the city provided me actually a document with some tasks already there, which to be honest, all make pretty much sense. So I did not do that many changes on that. I probably just added one or more tasks of what Tim and John provided me. So this slide is gonna have the task that we think that we need, and the next slide is gonna be a process timeline, which is different, okay? So task number one, we technically kick off and do assessment. That's where we gather all your information, review it, and then that's where the entire team usually comes here to Groveland and look at the Groveland. We wheel roads and measure roads, we take photos, we talk to people, we talk to the staff. So it's all the listening and understanding of what is going on. Another very toxic needs to be, we say that we're gonna do a circulation and streetscape plan. So there's items that go under that. They're listed over here. We're also gonna do and look at Festival Park and do a design for that. We'll look separately. We're gonna work both of these concurrent with stormwater and utility coordination. And at the end, of course, we're gonna provide you with some cost and phasing implementation and what do you guys need, and try to brainstorm about funding strategies with what other places have done. We can give you some comps and what is gonna work for you. And this goes hand in hand with engagement, and you're gonna see that in the next slide. And at the end, we literally pack all this up for you in a document, so it's a living document. So steps, so basically it's 3 steps. We initiation and assessment, then we are consent and plans creation, and your planning approval. So what you see on the top, it's your deliverables, your hard deliverables, and every one of them, and then what you see on the bottom is community engagement, okay? And we do it hand in hand, it goes together. So the idea on the initiation is to come and visit the area, and in light of transparency, which I just heard, we usually recommend to have a project page. We build that project page for every one of our projects, what is gonna be, the virtual page of what is going on. So if you ever have one of those signs, You can put a QR code and it can take you to the project page and give you the information. So we would like to have that. We create that project page for you, and we maintain all the content in that project page. Then what we do is during that listen and initiation page, we want to make sure that we do, people call it walking tour, and then a neighborhood meeting, we call it a workshop. Okay, we want to work the area with the residents, with the stakeholders, with you guys to hear what you have to say. But before that, we sometimes give them, a little bit of like complete street 101 and what a complete street here and what other places. So even before we go and walk, we're gonna give some of the residents some of the cues of what to look or not to look. It's like, do you feel safe? Do you want to see this type of treatment? So we'll do that. And then we'll also probably start telling them about some initial design alternative. Okay? So we'll gather all that information, then we go to our office and we start developing some typical sections, and the typical sections are going to look like the previous renderings that I show you. With those typical sections, what we'll do is when they're established and some of the concept designs for the park, we go back to the community and we show them. This is what we heard in the walk-in shop. This is what we want. Here are some of the concepts for the streets, for the parks. We can start running some initial numbers if we can, and we present that to the public. And we say to the public, you guys are also invited because these are going to be publicly advertised meetings. We get the input in some of them because a lot of people have strong opinions about streets. We use red dots and green dots, to be honest, so we count all those dots, and then what we'll do is, even though before we're going back and start doing our final design, we'll present all that to you guys, either to you or your task force, any of the members that you want to do that. We'll take all your input, clean everything up, do the final design, final option, cost, and then we present that one more time to you guys and the community. We'll do that, get more information, and do our plan document. It is my understanding that you would like to finish this by October, so you can start putting some costs in your budgets. We did talk to Tim about it. To be honest, you can start seeing some initial costs, like we say, to help you make a decision with alternative. I can say option 1, option 2, option 3. Option 1 is this in this price range. Option 2 is this price range. Option 3 is this price range. For example, I'm going to give you an example with Wauwatosa. The Church Space Street, we actually had, let's say, 500 feet of pavers. At the end, we couldn't do that. It was too expensive, so we needed to make it a little bit smaller. So we can tweak in that versus, but we're still going to give you a range of this. So we wrote a scope. It's a pretty detailed scope. Tim has it. It's here. It's a Word document that spells out what we're going to do in each one of these tasks. And we run our first draft of how much this is the planning process and design process and cost, and it's going to cost. This is our first pass. We like to do it task by task. It's pretty open. I can send the spreadsheet. We have to use your billing rates that was approved in 2020. And this is where we are right now, the way that with this process, with this number of meetings, with this number of deliverables, and this numbers of touch points. And with that, concludes my presentation. Sorry it was too long.
Questions? Dan?
I'm not sure if I really have any questions other than really just a comment that, you look at the costs and just seeing other projects put together on the private sector for builds and design and all that kind of stuff. A lot of that looks around the same cost, but that doesn't include all the civic engagement, the the communication, the meetings, all that kind of stuff. I think there's a ton of value in that. Obviously, that's a whole discussion with the board as far as where that actual value lies and how much we want to pay for it. But I personally see a huge value, just the communication side, because that's not something the city has. If we do these projects on our own, the city does not have the capability to do all these things. We don't have the staff. We don't have the means to do it. So just from my personal perspective, I think that's awesome that you guys are that involved in the community during those discussions. I not once now I'm downtown 10 hours a day, but I've never done a walk with our CRA board. And I think that that's something that has a lot of value to do those public engagement, boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And, you know, just a statement for another project, just for comparison, was some conversations around our civic center that we've had, and how, you know, the parking was measured based off 30 feet off of each intersection. It's very vague. I think if we're going to see these projects through and we're going to get accurate representation of the final costs or the benefits, it needs to be very specific. We need people out there measuring with a wheel, not just guesstimating based off of Google Maps. So that's just my input. So thank you for being so thorough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Since this is my first meeting, I'll let everyone else kind of ask their questions. But just for my insight, have we already signed a contract on this with this company? Or can you just give me a little bit of background on how it all fits in together with this? Are we hearing multiple proposals on this, or?
Yeah, the documents under review by our procurement manager, who is also our finance director right now, so I'm going to be getting feedback in terms of our policy. I expected well north of 6 figures for this scale of project. So in terms of next steps, that's something that we need to review in terms of meeting the procurement policies. We also want to make sure that we got the scope right, though. So I started with a draft scope, shared it with our public works director, shared it with the city manager, shared it with John Jones for feedback. It evolved essentially to what you're seeing here presented tonight from Claudia. I've taken this document, shared it again with the finance director, public works director, and then also the city manager, just trying to get some feedback. We also want feedback from you again to make sure that if we're making this substantial investment, it's not wasted. It's something that's going to help us, help the CRA board make some firm decisions on some of these options. And then again, it sets us up for construction level documents and investment.
And then
nothing has been signed to this point.
Gotcha. And then we have not done a plan like this previously for downtown?
There's been some previous planning efforts. You have Mr. Bauman on the board who could probably give you an idea of what those scopes look like, what was going on at that time frame, what it answered, what it didn't answer. And then John Jones has been involved with the CRA since what year, John?
2012.
So if there's been a plan with the downtown, odds are John's been involved in it. So I would defer to both of those gentlemen for any kind of history as a comparison for this.
So,
I will say one other thing. In looking at those plans, I don't think there's been a plan that looked at firmly addressing whether Broad and Orange and these connecting streets are one-way or two-way, and then also looking at issues like stormwater infrastructure, utilities, everything that really has to be done in tandem with these improvements. I don't think there's been a plan that comprehensive before.
did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, yeah, they did a major plan right before I came on council back in 2006. And it was more of a visual plan. It didn't really include any stormwater or infrastructure other than the streetscape is basically what it was. It's just a streetscape plan. And funds were much more scarce then too, so there wasn't really a whole lot done with it after it was planned. So it just kind of sat there. But the CRA has much more ability now than it did then, so.
I have a quick question. Is there any added benefit to, more for Tim than anybody else, I guess, to using GAI because we have John also? Like, is he able to collaborate?
Yeah, that's certainly a benefit, and one of the reasons why John was the first person that I brought it up to. GAI is also one of the best firms I could probably count on just a few fingers in terms of some of the other options, which we have the ability to receive scopes of work and proposals from them as well, of course. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we got out of this project is that we got different disciplines, not just a planner, but not just an engineer, someone who really understood project level finance, construction, and then engineering and planning all done in tandem. There's a lot of times where you have a plan level document that's done by a great planner like myself who doesn't know anything about engineering. And the engineer picks it up to do a construction level engineer document and says, this isn't going to work. We have to start from scratch. It adds cost by having all those different disciplines as part of a project. But if it's not done in tandem all at one time, I wouldn't have much confidence in the plan.
And is there anything else that you want us to know about this particular proposal?
Public engagement is a big part. It drives up the cost, but we see value with some of the feedback we received as part of the comp plan update is to make sure that our residents and business owners are engaged in it, or at least have the opportunity to be engaged to give feedback. Sometimes when a city or a city CRA does this level of project, it sends signals to not only your property owners and your residents, but also the market. It sends a signal that, wow, the city is being very intentional here. They're making an investment. There's many people that I've met, in local government and development who would say, in some cases, private investment follows public investment. If a city's willing to make a substantial investment in infrastructure in a given area and they have a vision and they're actually taking steps toward achieving that vision, it reduces the risk and gives a certain level of confidence to someone literally investing millions of dollars in terms of buying property, doing their own design on the property, and then executing on that private property. So it all works in tandem.
Thank you.
Claudia, can you go back to the table, please? I think it was the last chart.
Oh, sorry. The price one?
The last one with all the figures on it.
This one?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
So the project fees, what my question centers around the deliverables.
Yes.
So when I look at this, it looks like it's a la carte. So when you have the initiation and assessment, is that one report? And
Yes.
then when you get ready to do, so it's one report.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say that this is kind of like a la carte?
Yes and no. So it's not a straightforward answer. There's a step process over here. So if you look at this, I will say that your engagement can be a la carte. But if you start taking meetings out, then it might jeopardize your deliverables, which is your streetscape plan and your concept designs for Festival Park. So a la carte will be, if you want to take out the design of Festival Park out of this contract, that will be a la carte and just include the streets. Or a la carte will be out of the engagement strategy that we have designed for this, which is basically 3 touch point meetings, which is what we recommend, and 2 CRA board meetings. every place does it a little bit different. This is not the most robust one. I mean, to be honest, I would include 2 task force meetings more in here if you want to have it. So it's a mid-level car. So we can still make it a little more slim and we can make it a little more robust. So I pick a middle point for you guys in terms of a la carte with this. The same for the project page. You don't have to have a project page, a website for this. That's I think, but we're willing to do the communications for you guys. Because to be honest, once I produce all this information for your meetings, it doesn't take me much to do a project page because the information is already there. So a lot of the engagement is a la carte. The ones on the top, it was actually the minimal requirements that I got from the city.
Now, when the deliverable would be what?
So the deliverable will be what you see in pink here on the top, okay? So at the end of the initiation and assessment, we're gonna give you an area and data assessment presentation, okay? So we'll do that. At the end of design alternative, I'll give you a presentation with all those design alternative. When we do the cost final design, that is also gonna be a presentation. And then we'll package all that information in an actual document, almost like a booklet, if you want to see it. This is a design project, so I'm not expecting to write much, hopefully, but it's going to have a little bit of narrative, so it's going to be a long-lasting. And each one of them will be actually in your project page where people can have access to it. So the pink ones on top are deliverables.
Thank you. Very nice presentation. Just a few questions. Why is the CRA board meeting so far down? We've already got the design alternatives, the area data assessment, and all this before the CRA board meeting first. One, design and alternatives. Why is that so far down?
Good question. Yes. Because for sake of budget, technically, I would like all of you to attend the 2 previous ones because they're going to be publicly advertised meeting, therefore that you all can go. So I would like all of you to attend the workshop, the design meeting number 2. If you feel that we need to, that's why I make this almost like sliders, their step, we can also move it up too, the little bubble.
Without meeting with the CRA or specific groups first, how do you know what your creative design is going to be without those original brainstorming session and then coming back to the gatekeepers prior to public input?
Because this is why I need more ingredients into my recipe. Because I took what the city gave me, I probably thought that it was already validated by you guys. But if I have not, we can take that little bar and shift it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If you guys want to move before, yes.
I'm just asking questions because I'll tell you where I'm coming from is being through processes like this, and this isn't going to be a very popular thing to say, okay? But I can use an example. Mr. Maslow, would our current land use plan be what it is if we would ask the public what they wanted first?
Likely.
And because the public only knows what it knows.
Yeah, I know.
And sometimes you have to have some brainstorming and creative sessions to really get to the part where you can put the lines on the highway so you can move forward. And sometimes I feel, I've recently gotten myself into a little trouble because we asked the public prior to having the vision, and then we're off on some other tangent, right? So what is downtown going to look like? Are we going to bulldoze it down? I've heard some people say that. Are we going to, do different? I don't know, but I think a group has to get together and say, this is the lines on the highway, and go. We're the gatekeepers, and you go crazy within this and move forward, and let's get the public input and all that. But I can cite several different things that if we would have said, hey, to the public, what do you want? It would have been totally different than what we have right now, who they're very satisfied. And that's your old Steve Jobs thing, right? I mean, if he would have asked anybody about an iPad, what would that, you remember all that, so.
Use that example
Yeah.
often, yes.
You know,
So one of the things that I forgot to add, we are actually going to do, once we start kind of fine tuning and changing some of this, we'll do an engagement plan, and the engagement plan will actually highlight the intent of each one of these meetings. And that way, in terms of scoping, in price, if we have 3 community meetings and 2 CRA board meetings, that's total of 5, it does matter the order, but it doesn't really matter if we're just having 5. We can shift those around. The other thing that we've done with streetscape plans, which is it was very successful in Wauwatosa. We also did it for St. Pete, the warehouse art districts. We did form a steering committee, besides you guys, to do that. And we tend to meet with them. This is your technical. You talk about this TAC before. It's a task force. That's another option. If you form a task force for this project only, because will be another your practice, we will also get the chance to probably even meet with them before the overall community. So that's not here on the menu, but we can add it to the menu.
I'm just asking questions. I'm only one up here, so don't change everything
No,
without.
I'm giving you options, so for your considerations.
Would also like to see a specific meeting with the strategic planning group, because this CRA has to fit into the overall vision of the overall community. We've got some major development with major parks going on out north of here. I mean, how does everything integrate? And I'll use Winter Garden as an example. They have a good vision of historic and business, right? And they work well together, but they're separate. And at the end of the day, you know, I think that this has to fit into the overall community's vision as well. So I hope that you tap into those resources as well as you're going along. But that's all. I just want to make sure that when we engage the public that we're giving them, you know, really a narrow focus, because when you ask a question and they give you an answer, they expect some action on the answer. So let's make sure that we're moving in the right direction. And I would ask, I know you've got it because you're a professional, but the scope documents of what each one of those a la carte things would be, because that would say what the deliverables are and what we could really, for that kind of money, understand what we're getting. Okay, are we doing design and build on any of this? Because I'd like the group to really tackle the design and build versus cost plus and different ways of doing stuff when we're doing these projects.
Yeah, this is design only. This would not be design build. You would have the option on pulling pieces out of the plan in terms of priorities on if you want to design build it or design first and then, you know, keep those separate. But for now, it's strictly design.
So we'll give you schematic level design. So it's like, what do we call it, 10%, 15% construction in CAD. Wauwatosa, we actually had surveyed already. But Mayor, to your answer about meetings, very few scopes usually have a different line item for meetings. I like to put it there in case conversations like this shows up. Right now, you're coming up with one group, but halfway through the process, there's another. So I usually like to have kind of catch-all meetings to be able to meet with anyone that we feel that we need to. Even like a business owner might show up with a very high interest and say, I need to meet with you for, you know, an hour. So that is what the task is for, to give us that flexibility.
Yeah, I'm all for everything you're saying. I just come from an area where a large amount of creativity requires milestones and checkbacks with the gatekeepers, because you can go way far down the path in the wrong direction and then have to be yanked back. And those milestones, and these are the gatekeepers, and I think that maybe something in your timeline on that. I just thought that CRA, maybe I read that wrong, meeting way past design alternatives and everything else was just a little far too far.
Understood.
Dan?
I have some questions now. That initiation meeting at the very beginning, who is that with?
It's internal,
That's an internal meeting?
yes,
Okay.
with
That's not-
staff,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, and then the second question is, what is your, and this kind of go off of what Cherokee just said, with the milestones, what does your payment schedule look like, and is it in line with all those line items that Chair Gaines, Vice Chair Gaines asked was a la carte? Like, is
Yeah.
that the payment schedule?
Yeah, so what we do is this would basically be what we call a lump sum project, except for task number 8, which is progress meetings and general coordination. That will be hourly. And the reason that we make it hourly, because I guess estimate
Okay.
how many meetings that we're having and who are we meeting. But then we bill the city monthly, and we do percent complete per task.
Okay.
Okay, so when I bill you 100% for the 24,000 you see over there, is because I already delivered you with a PowerPoint presentation with our initial assessment.
Okay. I think it'd be helpful to have a really detailed
Yeah,
schedule. I
so
think that would,
usually procurement departments have very strict rules of how
Sure.
we submit. Some of them require a progress report to be submitted in every invoice, but we do submit invoices monthly regardless of where we are and show percent completion status report.
okay. Part of the context of the question too, if you go to the next slide, was,
This is the last one, so this,
yeah,
Okay.
when you look at the end of task 1, that's your deliverable, the area and data assessment. So you
Yes.
basically are spending, let's just say hypothetically, January to March, collecting the data,
and assessing it.
and assessing it. Yes. So when
That's
I
the job.
when I hear, and we haven't gotten an answer back yet regarding the stormwater, but obviously stormwater is a huge part of what we're talking about. So if we don't have our data to supply to you, we only have, currently, that's still the idea is that we have 50% of our assets are known, 50% are unknown. So if you don't have that data, does that slow down your whole process? And does that, yeah, I guess that's what I'm looking for, is like, can we,
So-
before we jump, if we jumped into something like this,
So
can you
yes,
provide, like,
yeah.
this is everything I need, here's what that's gonna cost you to this next deliverable, but this is the information I need first for us to actually get there as quickly as
Yes.
possible?
So stormwater would not necessarily stop. It will not stop the process, it will slow us down. What is a deal breaker is we're not tasked to do a traffic analysis. So we
Okay.
are hoping that DOT have done a lot of traffic analysis with the realignment and be able to provide those numbers and trips per day once your realignment is completed, because you're not going to have the same amount of trips right now in
that'll
Broad
all
and
change.
Orange after the realignment. So we do need those trips because, sure, I want to share street. I love share streets, but where is it going to work? And is it going to be needed? Am I still going to need my one-way pairs?
Yeah.
You know, how much parking am I going to need? So I do need the traffic data to actually help make an informed decision about your final street design.
Okay.
We can test it out. We can give you, you know, a 3-lane road holds up to 24,000 cars a day. I mean, we do have some threshold data that usually DOT has, so we can know the capacity of the street. But the capacity of the street is one thing, but also the need of businesses. You know, there's so much real estate that you have from right away to right away. So parking is gonna influence that, and we'll do a count. And once again, everything is pretty number ready. I can give you a section and say, this section will give you 100 on-street parking. This is gonna give you 50.
Yeah.
This is gonna give you 25. But trips, I do need to have that.
Okay. And then I'll leave this as my last question. I have a few others, but we can go over that later. For, you know, kind of going off what Chair Keogh asked, in the alignment with the strategic plan, I know you said that a lot of your stuff is, like, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel for stuff that you already know. But Groveland, when it comes to all things eco-agrarian, our dark sky initiative, all these kind of stuff are very, what I feel is very specific. to these kind of designs. And I think if we're trying to really identify ourselves specifically as a city that supports these things in the strategic initiative, that, you know, that be factored in. And if we were to put more work on your plate, would that cost us more? If we felt something didn't align with the strategic plan, would there be any kind of change of scope?
Probably.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's all like conversation and negotiation. We need to assess like how much is that going to be? Is it going to be only 5 hours of my time?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be 40 hours of my time?
Okay.
I can probably fudge 5 hours, but I don't think my boss is going to let me fudge 40.
Sure. I just don't, you know, a project this big, a contract this
Yes.
big, there's definitely a lot of room for scope creep. So I just, and financially, I don't want that to, you know, us to be surprised by something like that.
Yes, but you also will need a stopping point. I mean, out of this plan, we can also say, sure, that's important, but can you wait your next fiscal year, for example? You might not have, remember your fiscal year is going to start October 1st. So I also want to be mindful of your budget, even though you think it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But we'll keep that.
That's it. So,
And transparency. I will always be 100% transparency with you guys, give you all the information that you need to have to make an informed decision.
thank you.
Am I dismissed?
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Oh.
I'm sorry. Thank you for answering the traffic study question. That was going to be actually one of my questions there. So this does not include traffic analysis. One of my other questions is, will having this plan open up opportunities for additional grants? I mean, I know having design documents sometimes is a requirement for a grant application. Does this qualify for any additional revenue sources?
It'll be of substantial help. There's a lot of grant applications out there where it would be great to go after. There was one that was brought to our attention that was estimated to be between $10 to $15 million. But when we don't have a plan on paper that we could share as part of a grant application, you know, we're kind of spinning our wheels and making stuff up on the fly, and that's not going to bode well for a good application. So this, again, one of the major reasons for this is not only to make decisions for ourselves, but to share that as part of grant applications.
And if we do have the plan, that makes it easier to put something in the CIP for future development?
Yes.
And which I think does open up additional opportunities as well. They want to see you're actually planning for it. Okay. The only other question I have is, like, in the staff analysis, it said between $150,000 to $180,000, and this is $250,000. I was just curious where the discrepancy came from.
I will fall on that sword. That was my initial off-the-cuff guesstimate, and it was terribly wrong.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I forgive John.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Very nicely done.
Thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
Thank you.
Next up is, our final is business scope, medical facility recruitment, item number 7.
No slides for this one. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the CRA Governing Board, this agenda item addresses business recruitment. During discussions with the chairman and CRA staff, it was brought to our attention that one of the targeted industries identified was medical facilities. Hospital, freestanding emergency clinic, it wasn't clarified, but it was that medical facility was something that was desired by the city to have here. So this scope outlines the education process for the CRA Governing Board regarding business recruitment of a medical facility. The tasks include outlining what different types of medical facilities are currently being developed in the Central Florida marketplace, what their different site requirements are and preferred site locations and site access issues for each one of the different types of medical facility, whether it's a freestanding ED, whether it's a doc in the box like a Centric Care kind of thing, whether it's a freestanding doctor's office or a medical office building. and then looking at what the development process is for each one of those different types. At that point, the governing board would be able to make an informed decision as to which type of medical facility y'all would like to pursue and whether or not there is room or an appropriate space in Groveland to accommodate the type of facility that you want to go after. So it's basically an exercise in refining your target of desired development, what type of medical facility you want here, what are the steps that the development process that goes through, depending on the type of development, what specific site requirements are, and whether or not the city and the CRA has sites that can accommodate that desired development. So it's an exercise in becoming better informed to make a decision about what you want to do.
May I interject that that was a major part of the strategic plan, a medical village?
Yes, sir.
And it brings us back to how this fits into the overall community. And this is our first, after 3 years, our first step into trying to get to that portion of the strategic plan.
Yes, sir.
Correct? Questions?
You said what I was going to say. I think it's been left out of the conversation, even though it was a big part of the conversation originally in the strategic plan committee meetings. So
The two areas when you talk to people and ask them to bring clean business here, in my opinion, having talked to them, the first thing they ask, how good is the educational system and how good is your healthcare system?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't answer those very positively, you're not going to get the big players.
Yeah.
You know.
Chairman, if I may, I just want to echo that, that point they made with the strategic plan. And going back to grant opportunities, we've talked about small business grant opportunities in different ways, shapes, or form for the last several years now. The term anchor tenant is thrown out quite often. Whenever I think of an anchor tenant, I would say the medical facility. When you look at medical and education, large employers that are providing services that the residents need, I would put that in the anchor tenant category.
Absolutely, and instead of, what I love about medical facilities is the term economic impact versus economic development. Because all you have to do is look up on 27, what happened when they put that hospital in, and see what's going on at, down the road at Mineola. Because it's a anchor, because it never goes out of style. You're always going to need medical help. And like I've told so many people I've talked to, you know, if you're running a farm, you get stitches once every 3 months, and it's a long way down 50 and a long way out 19 at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So
It's an hour to get to Arnold Palmer. I'm just saying.
So what are we looking for? The types of medical we want to pursue?
Correct.
Or if we want to do the study, or?
This is the authorization to do the study to review the different types of medical facilities that are currently being developed in the marketplace, outline what their site requirements are and what the development process is associated with each one, and then y'all making an informed decision after this briefing as to which ones you would like to pursue.
So we need a consensus to do the study.
I'm in favor of doing the study.
yeah, could
Yes, same.
Could I just step in? Because
It's
several
listed as
people.
a discussion item.
There's been a lot of conversation with medical groups already, and where I think that we have an advantage over starting from scratch is that we have what they call core or anchor hospitals in the area of which they branch out from. Think of Advent and then the small Advent, and then the same thing is going on with Orlando, and I know several people sitting up here, and somebody sitting over in that office over there have talked to several different groups, and I think it's the group that's going to have to tell us what they can do and us select them versus us saying, oh, we want a University of Florida thing that's going bankrupt down here, right? And we need to, because they do the marketing study. They figure out what can work. They figure out all that. What their big ask is 10 acres. Can I have 10 acres? That's what I've heard over and over. They want the land and they build the hospital. So That's a conversation that's going to come up with council as well, but we're not talking about, you know, a big hospital. We're talking about the 24-bed thing like they have across from Orlando Health down at the other thing. Mascot might end up with a big one once Villages come out, but right now we got to worry about us. Go ahead. Consensus?
I've got a question.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So this is on the agenda for discussion in regarding to essentially contracting with GAI to do a separate study, correct?
It would be yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
What was the cost on that study?
$15,000.
Okay, that's what I remember. And then my question for Mr. Maslow, what have we done so far that just doesn't, like, is this not within your wheelhouse? Is it not within your capabilities, your staff's capabilities? I'm not saying I object to it. I'm just curious, why contract it out? What other means have we looked at for getting this data, this information or marketing information?
Yeah, just speaking candidly, we don't have the resources on our staff right now. I'm currently the only person that's working or paid out of the CRA at this point, and I also wear a few other hats with the city. I would love to do this analysis, but internally to save, but it's cost of doing business. We need some resources to help us with this. I do want to recognize it's a discussion-only item on the agenda, so we're looking for feedback in terms of actually making a budget decision and authorizing the task order. We would have to bring that to your next meeting as an action item. I believe it. Anita, am I speaking out of turn?
No, I agree.
That's good direction. I would hold, my consensus is hold off on the contract, please. There are things that even if you had one of the contract, like specifics, they want it west, everybody wants it west of 19, you know, to do the Bushnell. You know, there's some specifics that each one of these groups are asking for, and that should be in that. But right now, I would say we're a little premature for that, because I think we're beyond figuring out what we want. I think it's the marketplace is going to determine what we get, not us.
Also, I'm not sure if you guys know, but Wendy's building, there's a general practice going in that building to replace where Chefing It Up went. So that's cool. Yeah.
Okay. We have that done, and we have, we don't do reports here. Do you want to do a report?
I did have some stuff on report, but for the sake of time, I will save you guys time. I would like to say the only thing I have to report is I did send an email for a request for an agenda item to be added to a future agenda. It doesn't have to be the next one, just next year. As you guys know, the Groveland Community Market next week will be our last week at that market. For many reasons, it just wasn't working. You know, our vision for it was originally that it was going to be something that was community-supported, community-led, and organic growth. Now, there is a case definitely for a need for, at least in my opinion, for a monthly market, but it would need to be run through a marketing company with marketing dollars and a contract with the city. So I did put that in as a request for an agenda item. I think it would be very helpful to still have a place to support local producers. I'm talking about a morning, Saturday, or Sunday, whatever, market to support these local producers, but specifically the farmers.
And could you just ask for consensus to put it on the agenda?
No, I emailed him about, I'm just telling you, I sent him an email about adding that to the agenda. If you guys do want a consensus, that's fine. You know, but it's a small item and it's just for discussion. So I wasn't looking for anything right now.
No report.
I was just curious if staff got everything they needed for item 6 as far as moving forward or not. For the realignment plan study, I wasn't sure if staff got everything that they needed as far as direction.
It was just discussion,
Okay.
you know.
I have nothing new since the last meeting, as I was out of town for most of it, so.
No report.
No report.
And I have no report either. I appreciate you all. City Attorney?
Thank you.
Tim?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll be brief. I sent an email out to the CRA. City manager and I have had discussions on prohibited uses within the CRA. There's some special exceptions indicated in our code, but there's also some additional uses that, based on feedback, we've made a list. I emailed that out based on additional feedback. We added one other item on adult-oriented businesses. Again, I emailed that out to the group. If anyone has any feedback, I'd appreciate that. If you'd like to make that an agenda item for a comprehensive review and to get feedback, ultimately, we'll have to prepare an ordinance, much like every other ordinance. So I'll have to go through planning and zoning, since it's a land development regulation, for recommendation, and then that will be taken to City Council for 2 public readings.
I think it's worth a discussion with everybody on those prohibitive uses. There may be some other things that come out of that. Hopefully restaurants aren't one of them, but
No, not. The other item is, so we usually meet the last Monday of each month, recognizing that that meeting in December would be between Christmas and New Year's. A lot of folks are typically on vacation at that time, spending time with family. I know I will be doing that. We wanted to get an idea from the board in terms of some alternative meeting dates, either in December or waiting until January to meet. We were looking at December 15th. Anita's going to get upset with me because I promised I'd have some specific dates to propose, but we were looking at December 15th as the alternative. But I realized not only do we have City Council that night, we also have a workshop prior to that where you'll see me again in our Strategic Planning Committee presenting our Strategic Plan 3-year review recommendations. So I don't see December 15th, that Monday, as being an option. I'm just trying to get some feedback in terms of if we really feel the need to create a meeting in December, or if we could wait until January.
well, my input on that is if it's going to be this long, this many things on the agenda, we need to break it up. We've just got too much on this. This was way too much on one agenda, and we've been kind of light the last several ones, and I don't know how we got it all here, but I think it depends on how much is on that agenda. In my personal opinion, I'll defer to the rest of the group, but this is a lot of heavy-duty stuff on one night that should have been looked at more than just tonight.
Agree.
Got input? You awake? You got input?
I think even if it's a small, short agenda, I think it kind of sets up for some missing board members, because I know a lot of people might take 2-3 weeks off at that time, and then that's their one vacation. I'll be here, but I think that it might be better if we put it to January, so I'm fine with that. But
I'm flexible either way. I'll be here, and I'll be available in January, typically. So.
Yeah, I don't know what a vacation is, so I will be here.
I guess we'll be here.
Either way.
Kind of sort of will be here, so, I mean, it would depend on the date. But again, I am not about 15-minute or 30-minute sessions. That is so annoying, and it's more like quantity over quality.
Would you agree that 3.5 hours may be a little bit too long?
Oh, absolutely.
Somewhere in the middle.
We're playing Goldilocks.
There's a sweet spot somewhere.
That's right.
I'm available on the 22nd of December. I don't know if that's,
What does a program look like? Do you have a lot of stuff for December, if we have one?
Based on tonight's meeting, I'll have to compare notes with both John and Anita and review the items that you asked to bring back, and also take into account the concept of cadence and how much we could actually tackle on one agenda.
That's right, and maybe instead of December, if we need to have another one in January, we just split it up. I mean, we can do that. We've done it with other committees before, but let's determine what we can do and keep it to a 3-hour minimum or maximum.
Maximum, not minimum. Like, please don't say 3-hour minimum. I'm gonna
You say
cry.
3 hour or 3 item?
Okay.
I heard December 22nd.
That doesn't work for the vice mayor. We'll have to,
No? Okay.
we might have to look at January as a.
Okay.
Yeah. January, and
January.
if we need a second one in January, we'll talk about it. But
Okay.
let's get the agenda together and determine it with a group.
Okay. We'll review internally as a team. Sierra, Anita, John, myself will do an agenda review. And we'll provide not only the agenda topics to you all, but the next round of meeting dates in January.
Yeah, I would say too, if it is pushed to January and we don't do one in December, if we would be able to get the agenda, decide on all those agenda items far enough ahead, even if it is a heavier meeting, that we come a little bit more prepared as far as being able to, dive a little bit deeper and have that agenda at least a week ahead of time.
Is that it?
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Meeting adjourned.
I may just sleep.